there, jerk faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about news, culture, and of course our movie review. Uh, Tonight we will be reviewing, keeping in theme for this month, which is Spooky September. We will be reviewing uh, Midsommar, starring Florence Pugh, uh, and I forget who the other guys are. It doesn't matter. But
Yeah. Mainly Florence Pugh.
Florence Pugh. Yeah, she was the big name that came out of there. So,
what a movie! What a movie!
Yeah, so we have that to talk about. Co-piloting this thing with me, as ever, is the homeboy Rob.
What's going on?
Lots of interesting things. But yeah, it's the news cycle is, it's filled with stories, but it's always a bit of a chore to try to pick out one or two news stories.
Yeah, well, it's like we're not really, like I said, we've talked about this before. We're not a news site or anything like that.
Yeah.
We're not doing that. And
we're not a reporting channel. We're a commentary channel.
In reality, I don't believe in the 24/7 news cycle, because honestly, there's really not all that much. It's a lot of the stories that go throughout the week. Oh, this is kind of like with Ace in the Hole. It's like, hey, how much can we milk this story, to sell papers and to get.
If the fire is not happening in my house, then I can hear about it in the morning.
Yeah, it's like, it's even back then. It wasn't through through television per se, but it definitely was happening in the newspapers. And that is what carried over to nowadays. It's like, more about Trump, more about this and that. It's like, yeah, we've talked about that. It's, if there's new breaking stuff about that, there's where something new comes out of that story, we're more than likely going to talk about it, because it's like, okay, that's important. Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the developing, how it's developing. Kind of like when we did talk about a little bit about the Uvalde shooting, there was new stuff coming out almost every day on that, because as more information came out, that's news, because that should scare the hell out of anybody, and there should be a lot of anger, in that community, rightfully so. But in a lot of these news stories, it's not, news doesn't necessarily develop in real time like that. It just doesn't happen. There's a lot of just twiddle my thumbs, and a lot of it doesn't become news anymore. It becomes speculation and commentary about stuff, and that's just not we don't have any fun with that. That's
it's not useful. It's not useful is what it is.
Exactly.
Because news should be, news should ultimately inform, so that you can make the decision for yourself. Not okay, you're not gonna just take the analysis of Brian Stelter, or you're not gonna take the just the analysis of what's his face, Jesse Waters on Fox, or I don't even watch MSNBC. I'm not gonna pretend like I know anyone on MSNBC, but yeah, just it's
Good Lord.
yeah, Joy Reid, but yeah, again, news should help to inform you, and then to help, and then leave it to you to make what decisions may follow. I mean, because again, unless the fire is at my house, again, I can read about it or hear about it in the morning.
Right. And if we're not excited talking about
it, particularly if the fire is happening halfway around the world, it's like, I don't need to know about it.
Yeah, and if we're not excited about it, why the hell would you want to listen to us? It's because that's a boring discussion. It's a boring stream.
Right. But yeah, I mean, okay, but in local news, the heat waves kind of broke around
Thank God.
here, and yeah, really, thank God. Um, I heard on Sunday that that they're that or at least uh, at my church the power went out. Um,
Oh wow. Oh yeah, you were out of town this weekend,
I was
weren't
out of
you?
town this weekend. So yeah. But I'm glad I came back, and the heat wave was supposed to break out last Friday. And yeah, it's not autumn temps, but it's definitely better than it was or has been.
It's definitely it's progressively going down. Like it's supposed to go down even more this week, which is it's nice. You know, it's still been really humid, but
Yeah,
it's not like where I walk out, like I get out of the shower and I'm already sweating after taking a cold shower. You know,
right,
it's not one of
exactly.
those, because that was getting really old. Even for, you know, and I like the heat, but not that much. It's just awful.
Yeah, I like that. I was funny. I was talking to my barber about this, and he was talking about how that because he's getting older and stuff, but he's like
Yeah,
he can't take the heat anymore, and he was saying, and he has plans to move back to Korea, and Korea is known for their really humid summers, and
yeah, yeah.
I'm just like, yeah, you're gonna trade dry heat for wet heat,
Wet
and
heat.
yeah,
Yeah.
but he's like, but he's like, yeah, but it's home for me, so I was like, okay, I get it, but it's
Yeah.
like telling him like that's why I can never live in Florida because of the humidity.
Yeah, you know, it's funny because I know a lot of people like it's because I have a lot of family up in like like the Northeast, and it's like they get so fucking tired of like the winters, and it's like I got to get the fuck out of here. And I think
Yeah.
it's kind of the same here, like where people get tired of the heat. It's like I got to get out of this. Like, and so you always have that's where you have like all these people that are like moving around and like especially as they
Right. Well,
get later.
that's
They
like
get,
kind of what is it? Not cliche, but I guess like I guess like the migratory patterns of like a lot of New Yorkers. They live in New York, but then
they go down to Florida.
they go down to Florida for the
Yeah.
winters, and there's something to that. So I mean, like, where would Southern Californians like us go for the winter or go for the summer? Probably probably
North
uh,
Dakota.
North. Really, North Dakota?
I well, no, I'm just saying it's like anywhere like where there's not like a ton of heat.
True, yeah. Or at least just kind of hang more at towards like the beach.
The beach, yeah. I mean, we do have that option. Or you go to the mountains. You can go. We have a lot of different places you can go. Or hell, you can go to Northern California. Like it's not as bad up there.
True, yeah, yeah. It's a lot more green up there.
Yeah,
Because
it's
yeah, because
very,
essentially, especially here where we live in the San Fernando Valley, people forget that this is a desert. Um,
yeah.
and so, uh, yeah, yeah. I mean, I did a little bit of, like you mentioned before. I did a little escaping. I got out of town for the weekend. It was nice. I went down to Oceanside.
Oh yeah, that's a great. That's a
Yeah,
fun hang out.
yeah, but it was humid though. So it was. I mean, it was nice, but it was like it was still really humid and um, not quite the escape that I had hoped for. But again, it was about the time when the remnants of what is this tropical storm K was blowing into the state. So,
Yeah, yeah.
but still, it was a good time. Just hanging out with some friends and got to do a little fishing, which is always nice for me. I got
That's yeah. That's your go-to. Like I know that just seems to like you get very like Zen. That's your Zen like time where it's like you get to really contemplate life and everything going on. I know that's something that you do.
yeah, and your wife constantly is bothering me about taking her, and then it's like I can never take your wife because like then it won't be Zen for me anymore.
No, there is no way in hell I would ever take her fishing because
Oh,
one,
I don't.
we
Yeah,
won't catch anything because she can't stay still and she's too loud. You have to be still and quiet. It's two things that my wife can't do for more than 5 minutes.
yeah, no, no, exactly. She'll be
The
constantly asking questions. And it's like, why aren't the fish? No, what's more is she'll be bored to tears. That's what it is.
Yeah, it's
Because
like one of
again,
those.
because she's the type that can't stay still, and so like, the vast majority of the time you're just kind of patiently waiting, and I honestly cannot see your wife doing any of
No, there's no way in hell. I would never go fishing with her. It's just never gonna happen.
that. I know, and she keeps bothering me about taking her, and just like, I will never take you fishing. All right, that is
One,
fishing is
like,
my happy place.
you both would be so miserable. You would hate it because you don't get to do what you want to do and be like, quiet and still
Exactly.
and just kind of contemplate things while you're trying to catch fish. And
Hmm.
she would hate it because she can't stay still. She can't just, be quiet or like or stay there for hours just kind of enjoy. Yeah, and if you don't catch anything, you're enjoying nature. You're
Exactly. I'm out there, in my little, camping chair. Sometimes with a drink, and just enjoying nature.
it's all about.
It's
Oh, you make each other miserable.
yeah. Oh yeah. Although yeah, I mean my trip wasn't like all just relaxation because yeah, my friend, I don't know why, but I always tend to attract the opposite. But my friends are like kind of active, and so we went on. We rented some bikes, beach cruisers, and we went on a bike ride like for over 20 miles. Um,
Jesus. Oh man, that's a long ride.
yeah, because the first route we did is like it was like a bike trail that kind of went towards like the marina close by to where we were, and that was like 7 miles, backward, going, going and coming back from the bike shop that we rented the bikes. And then after that, we uh, we went to go get some dessert like gelato, and that place was 3 miles away, but then also 3 miles coming back to the bike shop. So yeah, so 7 and 7, that's 14. 3 and 3, that's 6. That's 20 miles that I rode, and it was the first time in like maybe, I don't know, like maybe 10 years or so that I even was even on a bike, or even bike that even a fraction of that distance.
Yeah.
But luckily, since I've been keeping up with a workout regimen, I was actually able to last longer than even I was expecting. Um,
Oh, that's awesome.
yeah, although when we did go to get gelato, uh, what is it? It turns out my one of my wheels got a flat, and then
Oh,
yeah, and then it was really close to the time that we had to get the bikes back, or we might be charged like another day.
oh,
So yeah, so I had to book 3 miles back to the bike shop like nonstop, and I'll tell you what, my quads were killing me.
oh, I can imagine it. Especially you
Yeah.
haven't like if you haven't like done like that type of riding and like it's just it's rough. Like and I haven't been doing any biking, but I have been doing a lot more running recently, and it's like just I forgot like the amount of pain that like goes through like my thighs and like my calves and stuff. Like like yesterday was really bad. Like my legs were cramping so bad after I did my run. I was like, oh, no, God. But yeah, I guess you and I have both been, in our own time, kind of just kind of keeping up with our workout regimen.
Yeah, absolutely. It's all. I mean, I'm not expecting to like become cut or like shredded or anything, but just staying relatively healthy, keeping the ticker in shape and all that. Although
Wow.
my uncle, I last month when I went to Memphis, it was like the first time I saw him in a couple of years, given the state of everything. But it was like also like one of the first times he's ever seen me like in shorts, and he was really surprised at my legs. And I mean, I know you can't see it on camera, but I have really big like legs. Like I have really
Oh yeah, your legs they look good, dude.
yeah, but it's like yeah. So I like really like I have really massive calves. I have really I have really
My thighs,
strong.
they're like solid. It's like an oak tree. Like
Yeah,
it's super solid.
yeah.
It's I was like
Thank you.
that's one thing I never really lost. So like my legs are not really flabby.
Hmm.
It's like they're from my cross country days, my legs are fucking thick, dude.
Right. Yeah, no, and my uncle took note of my legs and noting that they still retain a lot of musculature, and he was telling me how important that is because he said like that like your leg muscles are kind of like your second heart.
Yeah.
And so, if you can keep the fitness of your legs, then you'll be pretty much I mean, not 100% guaranteed safe, but you'll stand a better chance of having better like cardiovascular health.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm glad
Um
about that. Although would want to talk to you about some remedies for planners fasciitis.
oh yeah, I don't know if you have anything like I don't really have any honestly like with that the even like yeah because
Yeah,
there's a
I mean,
lot
because
of baseball.
those of you who don't know, it's like plantar fasciitis is like a runner's thing, and like it almost feels like a bruise, like but on the inside, like about like where your arch is.
It feels like someone is like stabbing your feet with little pins. That's what at least it's like it's almost like a weird burning sensation in like your foot.
Well, mine
That's
isn't
all.
as yeah, mine isn't as that intense. It just feels like it, I definitely feel it like when I first wake up in the morning, like a little bit of like a sorry achiness. As I would describe it. And again, it feels like kind of like a bruise, like there's like an internal bruise.
Yeah, I don't really have any particular remedies that I can think of because even like there's a lot of baseball players that deal with this problem too. So, most famously is Albert Pujols, who now he's
Mm.
playing on the Cardinals. But when he first signed with the Los Angeles Angels, he got plantar fasciitis really bad. Like I think he had been dealing with it like with his first stint with the Cardinals,
Mm-hmm.
like towards the end of his stint with the Cardinals, but it got really bad like when he signed with the Angels, and it's like it's a lot of the doctors that talk about this. There's not really anything that they can do to heal it per se. Like the best way to is to rest your foot, like or to find ways like where you can still exercise, but you have to like limit it somewhat, like where you're not
Mm.
like okay, well I've been running like 5 miles a day and my feet feel like they're on fire and it's really hard to like my feet hurt really bad. Maybe it's like you bring it down to like 3 miles a day or something like that. Maybe you run a little bit faster, but like you're cutting down the amount of like time pressure that you're
Yeah,
putting on your
distance.
foot.
Yeah, distance.
Yeah, and that it's finding like little ways to like maybe take a little bit of pressure off your feet. Maybe it's finding a way to cushion them better,
Mm.
but outside of just like not doing anything and just letting the bone kind of heal back up, because what it is, it's similar to it's like little what from what I understand, plantar fasciitis. It's like these like it's not like a fracture, like you broke your foot, but like there's these tiny little fractures in the bones that it's like where you didn't break your foot, but like they are your feet are really hurting. It's like these like tiny little fissures in the foot. Same thing with like shin splints are kind of the
Right.
same
So it's
thing.
like kind of like micro fractures.
Yeah, and the best way to to deal with that is to just not use it. But if you have an exercise regimen, you need to do it. Uh, you have to find ways to maybe like cushion your foot better. To maybe to
Yeah, I've been
find a
looking
way.
into some insoles, but
Honestly, dude, like what helped me, I bought shoes from Skechers with like their foam inserts that they already have in their shoes.
uh-huh.
It's been a fucking godsend.
Yeah, I also saw some not insoles, but like this special like arch support thing that like kind of like straps to your foot, and you can like put socks over it. Um, but in the meantime, I just I stopped running, but I switched it up and I started to swim. So hope and then I decided just take a little bit of time off from running and just maybe just do swimming and instead of the running.
Yeah.
And yeah,
Uh,
give my foot that time to heal.
yeah, sometimes, yeah, switching up your regimen. Like, okay, I've been running or I've been doing like some biking, but like, y'all, my feet are hurting. Let's try something that maybe doesn't. You're still getting that workout in, but you're not using your feet. Like, okay, maybe I'll do some other form of exercise so it gives my feet a rest. And and you kind of you're changing up what you're exercising. Because I know with my wife with her condition, swimming is really her best option
Right.
because it's not putting pressure on her disability. It's
Mm-hmm.
she's able to swim without any pain essentially, which is great.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I mean that's how that's how I've always kind of approached it. Sometimes like you have to find some other way to get that exercise in, to give like your foot or whatever is like kind of ailing you like a little bit of a rest. um or especially like let's say like you're lifting and like you strain a muscle in your back or in your arm. It's like, okay, well, I can't do that for a little while, but I'll work out my legs. You'll do something different, so you're still getting the exercise, you're still doing all that, but you're just working something different out. Because really the best thing is it's just you have to rest those things. You have to find some other way.
Right. Yeah, yeah, before because I was feeling it for a while and I gave it no never mind because you know because it only hurt in the morning. But then after that, just like it was more of a discomfort. Discomfort just kind of went away throughout the day. So I didn't give it any never mind until I looked up some of the symptoms and it's like, oh, okay, that's probably what it is.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, I'll probably just and yeah, now it's kind of like instinctively. I mean, it's kind of instinctively doing it already because I switched. Because since I decided to switch it up. Well, I was also I also switched it up to swimming because it was getting so hot. Because I get up early in the morning to run, and eat, and eat like the last couple of weeks, even in the early mornings, it was like still really warm. So I decided to switch it up and do swimming. And so I guess yeah, I'll keep doing the swimming instead of running, and giving my
Yeah, I
foot
would say like give it
that
a few
time to
months.
rest. Yeah.
Yeah, do the swimming for a few months and then like see how your feet are feeling like when you wake up in the morning. And if like you're starting to feel like pain free, maybe give it like another month after that, keep up the swimming and then go back to running. It's like it
Yeah.
just but that would
Absolutely.
be my recommendation.
Absolutely.
Or you just quit being a pussy and get the sand out of your vagina.
I know, right?
Just
Right. Because it's really more about my petticoat getting in the way.
yeah. Yeah.
That's really what's bothering me. It's my petticoat. It's constantly getting stuck in my laces. Um,
But was it my weekend was definitely a lot less eventful, I guess. We had a little bit of a rainstorm here on Saturday. But we had or actually was it on Friday is like kind of like when the storm hit. We ended up having. I almost called you because I was like, oh, because a few people wanted to hang out, and I was like, oh, I should call Andy. Oh shit, that's right, he's out of town. So I was like, I can't call him. But we ended up just kind of hanging out. We played some Cards Against Humanity, which I hadn't done in a while. Had some pizza, had some beers, and then most of the weekend I just kind of had a chance to really just relax, spend some time with.
Wait, I didn't catch that last part. Who'd you get? Who'd you get with this?
Well, yeah, a couple friends of the podcast, Dan the Man and Brandon. We haven't had him on in a while. We'll have to try to get him back on.
Right. Oh, is Dan back from summer camp?
He's back. Actually, he was wanting to talk about us doing a Jerks Only podcast. Obviously in person.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll have to put something up. We haven't done one with him in a while.
Yeah.
Just kind of. I think that would be fun. We haven't done a Jerks Only in a while, actually, to be honest.
Yeah, that's true.
So we could set something up for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so we just kind of the four of us hang out. We played some Cards Against Humanity, had some pizza, had some beers, had some buffalo wings. So that was a lot of fun. And then most of the rest of the weekend just kind of it was kind of rainy and just I didn't really want to go anywhere. So the wife and I just kind of hung out at home. We did I forgot, like, she kind of like was doing her own thing. We kind of like were doing our own thing this weekend. I got a chance to play some games, work on the movie review for this week. And then actually, was it Sunday or yesterday? I think it was Sunday. Yeah, it was Sunday and yesterday. I finally got her into liking The Simpsons. Now she's now a fan. So I was like, I think she understands like why it's funny now. So I'm like, thank God. So now it's like there's all right. We gotta watch.
I know it's a good thing too. You're like you're like this close to divorcing her, right?
Yeah. No, right? But then I also got a chance to watch some movies that either I had not seen before, and honestly, everyone was mad at me for not having watched Scream. I have never watched the first Scream. So many people are like, "You've seen all these great movies, but you've not seen this. Well, what's wrong with you? What are you doing with your life?"
A plug. The Cut Above horror review podcast. We are guests on their podcast, and when Rob revealed to these horror aficionados that he had not watched these.
Not watched at least the original Scream.
Right,
much less like any sequels. They're like, what?
When they found out that Rob had not seen these seminal works,
somebody thought I kicked a cat. It's like I kicked one of their cats. That's what.
Yeah, that's it's like he peed on his on one of their like grandparents' ashes.
Yeah. Like in our movie tonight.
Exactly. Thank you. I really hope I knew you'd get that.
But no, it was so that was a lot of fun. I got to watch that with my wife. She liked it too.
Mm-hmm.
I have seen this movie before, but I don't think I've seen it since like '97. Mm-hmm. Was I Know What You Did Last Summer? I got to watch that. I got to watch Mother with.
You got to see Jennifer Love Hewitt's wonderful breasts.
Oh, dude. She honestly, like, even today, she still looks super hot. It's like she's that was like definitely like one of my like crushes when I was younger. But she's still like woof. She's still a tasty slice. Let me tell you.
Mm-hmm. I think she's on that new, or not new, but she's on that show 911 on Fox.
Yeah. She's on that show.
Yeah, I think she plays a 911 operator.
Yeah, she looks amazing. I want that as my 911 operator. It's like, oh, hello.
It's like, what are you wearing?
Yeah. We watched Mother with Darren Aronofsky movie. You probably, if you don't know that one, you definitely know Black Swan.
Right.
But this one stars Jennifer Lawrence and Javier Bardem, which is a weird mindfuck of a movie.
Yeah,
And
I didn't hear such great things about it.
it's I disagree. I think it's a good movie. It is. It's a little not like, I wouldn't say well, there are parts of it that are disturbing, but I would say that I think it's worthy of us talking about it. I would really like to get your thoughts on it. So we'll review that movie at some point. But I really liked it. And what else? I've been working through this trilogy on Criterion recently, which called The Human Condition, starring Tatsuya. I can't even say his name. Tatsuya Nakadai. We've talked about him in Yojimbo and Sanjuro.
Right. He played
And
the rival, right?
yeah. And this one, this is a long trilogy of movies because it's based off of a book series that has not been translated into English, but it is the most accurate movie. Like they talk about, like, this is the most accurate movie, a book to movie adaptation. And even the director, who was there all along during the filming, he says he thanked all the cast and crew for making it. This is exactly what my book was meant to be. Like, I mean, they really went all out on this film. It is one of the most I can't, it's not like a super action packed, crazy experience, but the dialogue is so captivating. Like, the characters are so captivating. Like, I can't turn away. It's so good. I'm in the like, in each movie is split up into 2 acts. I mean, and all the movies are about 3+ hours long, but they're all split up into 2 acts. So I'm in like the very last act of the 3rd movie, and I'm just blown away. It's so good. And it's really been a fun ride. And so I'm kind of glad I pulled the trigger and started watching that. And that's actually, this was his first starring role too. Like, he was really, like, he was intimidated to do it, but like I watched some interviews with him talking about it. He's still alive, by the way, Tatsuya Nakadai. But
Was he
he
an
really was like,
octogenarian now?
he's got to be in his 90s. He's probably almost 90 now. I think he's like 85 or something like that. He's pretty old now.
Yeah, so octogenarian.
Yeah. But yeah, he's talking about like how he got to work with all these like great Japanese actors that he looked up to, but he was the lead, he was the star, and
Right.
He really learned his craft, doing this movie. So another films that we should definitely talk about in the future. I love the idea of, it's a Japanese film, based, not very long after World War II. It's one of them. It's so critical of the Imperial Japanese government of the early 20th century.
Okay. Oh yeah. That's why that title sounds familiar. Yeah, you were talking to me about this.
Wow. I was like, I can't believe that that this movie got made, because you would think that all the stuff that we hear about, like, it's so terrible, Japan, the nuclear bomb in Japan, they were just these, like, they didn't deserve all that. And it's like, no, a lot of the people that were in Japan, they fucking hated that government. Kind of like, I would say, similar to a lot of the Germans that lived in Nazi Germany, they didn't like it either.
Right.
They get kind of like, this broad brush that they're all Nazis, or they're all like, gung ho for Japan. Does for whatever reason, people don't.
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Japan gets a pass a lot, and maybe it's like, like legitimate white liberal guilt for like dropping a bomb on them, which again was like 7th and 9th worst bombings categorized by the Japanese. 7th and 9th. All right.
Yeah, that that book series, which I wish was in, like, I honestly, if this was if they had translated it into English, I would totally buy this book series. It's like a 6-volume series. But like, obviously the only way I'm able to get this story is through this movie trilogy. And like the author and the director and all the actors, like they believed in this story, and they're like, yeah, like the government was horrible, like how they treated people, and like they do not hold anything back. They really tell the truth on how people were treated, and this is uh, how they treated, like, the Chinese, and hell, how they even treated like a lot of the Japanese people, or anyone who wasn't like pro Imperial Japan. They treated those people like shit. And
Yeah.
and
I mean, just
kanji
like,
are
yeah, I always wondered, what would have happened if we had dropped the bomb on, Germany instead of Japan. Like, would people have,
as much
softer,
hatred.
or yeah, like they'd have a softer take on like the Nazis as opposed to like the
Oh,
Japanese.
I guarantee it. And we would be looking. We would. It's like they would call. It's Hirohito. He's the next Hirohito. It's like that's how I think. Honestly, I think you're right. I think that's exactly how they would look at it.
Hmm. Yeah, but
Because
yeah,
like
but a certain tribe wouldn't,
no one talks about how like rape was used as a weapon
mm,
from Japan, in both Korea and China, in a lot of these like
Manchuria.
they don't talk about like the human experiments that were going on, which was, if not like on par, if at least on par,
Yeah,
if not worse.
people don't understand that. Yeah, what people don't understand is that the Japanese were like, I mean, not all, of course, hashtag not all, but like really like the regime and like a lot of like the military was very much like the Nazis and like the SS.
It was scary. Like,
Yeah,
and it's like,
it was almost 1-to-1 comparison.
yeah, this movie series, like this movie trilogy, does not hold anything back, in my opinion. Like they show like a lot of the cruelty that these people show, and like, and the main character of the movie, Kaji, played by Tatsuya Nakadai, his crime was that he was trying to show kindness to people. Like, it's like they're human beings. Like, we can't just treat them like garbage. Yeah, they're not like they're not Japanese, but like if you just treat them with like some ounce of respect, and like they're human beings, you're gonna get so much more out of them. And like he took a lot, like the entire movie series is like, this guy who is trying to show kindness and be a human being, and every time that, like, even at his own to his own detriment, and he gets treated like garbage. It sucks. It's hard to watch, because the guy like wants to do what's right, and everyone, like, even because he knows it's the right thing to do, even though he knows it's going to cause him pain. And it's a really beautiful story.
Hmm.
So that was my weekend.
All right, very well. Yeah, let's move into topics for discussion tonight. Any preference on where we begin?
You want to start with the Disney stuff?
All right, yeah, let's start with the Disney stuff.
Well,
Um,
I was gonna start a little bit, because another movie that I watched this weekend, which is a Disney Marvel collaboration, Thor: Love and Thunder. Wow, what a piece of shit that was!
Don't hold back. Tell us how you really feel.
Oh my god.
uh,
Let me I will say, did I hate everything about the movie? No. I thought Christian Bale as the bad guy, he was great. I liked his character. I thought it was kind of like a really interesting idea. He was this guy who, it's like they're, the world that the Thor is in. It's a world of gods. Obviously Thor is the god of thunder, and Christian Bale's character, he's the person we see first in the movie, and he is crawling through this like little wasteland desert with like this young girl, which turns out to be his daughter, and she ends up, he's praying to his god, which is some deity. I forget the name of like the deity, but he's praying for like them to for that god to protect her daughter, keep her alive, and she dies. But he is able to live on, and he finds this like oasis in the middle, this wasteland, and it turns out it's like the area where his god that he worships lives, and he ends up, from there, he realizes that his god is, pretty much a piece of shit, and he had there's this sword there that is like, it's a god slayer sword of some sort, and he picks that up, and he ends up like killing his god. Is like, kind of the idea is like, all gods must die, and so he ends up becoming like a serial killer to like, all these deities of all these races, which is kind of a cool concept. I like the idea. I was like, all right,
think,
cool.
his character in the comics, I think, goes by the handle, God Butcher.
Yeah, God Butcher. Thank you. That was the word I was looking for. But yeah, it was like, okay, this is kind of a cool concept. I was all in. And then the rest of the movie happened. Thor, and so like, I know like one of the big things that was like all the hubbub before the movie came out, it's like, oh, there's this like cool like, oh, they're trying to make like, everyone's like, either like you had the left like super excited about it, or you had the right all up in arms about it, like, oh, they're trying to make Thor, and they're trying to make this gay thing between Star-Lord and Thor, and like all this stuff. And it's like, honestly, that none of that happened. Like there was nothing to that. Like there was nothing to be excited about in that sense, and there was nothing to be upset about. So I was like, okay, that's a nothing burger essentially. And in fact, like the Guardians of the Galaxy are there for like all of like maybe like 5 seconds in the movie. Like they're not really a part of the movie, other than the fact that like at the end of Endgame, the Thor and the Guardians of the Galaxy kind of continue on these adventures together. We knew that, and that's where like, but then they end up separating, and that's it. And so we end up meeting back up with another one of his crew that wasn't dead, like Sith, like his kind of like who we meet in the very first movie. And after that, he ends up like, there's something that's like, oh, I gotta talk with this God Butcher is kind of like a big deal, and it's like, oh, I guess he's gonna be going after Asgard. So we go to New Asgard with of course the Valkyrie girl, who is now the king of Asgard, because reasons that because Thor abdicated his throne, of course. And I don't know. There's nothing really there either that was like too cringeworthy per se. But the other story that we get is like, oh, we get to meet back up with Jane Foster and see what's going on with her. Turns out she's dying from cancer. Okay. Why she's what her cancer was, we're not really sure. How was it? She's been dealing with it for a few months. And then like, but there's nothing really like more about that. Like, how did she get it? Was it something that like she did with her interactions with like the wormhole?
Right. Was it a result of her studying of like the Bifrost radiation or whatever?
Yeah, and then
Although that would have
anyway,
been probably a good way to explain it, but they probably didn't do that. I'm guessing.
They never explain it, and it's like there's allusions to that, but like they never actually like, oh, I've been dealing with no one talks about it. It's like, oh, so frustrating. So
Right,
but
and like also did they say whether or not she was blipped?
No, they never talk about that either.
Okay.
So it's just like, so you don't get any, like, you don't get anything. It's
right,
like, what?
You don't get because like she's been gone from like technically 3 movies because what was it? It was Ragnarok, and then it just went into Endgame. Or no, or Infinity War, and then Endgame.
Yeah, we never see, we
Yeah,
don't
we
see it.
don't, and
So
we don't know like what happens to her. Like I think, I mean, I think we know what happens to what is it? Stellan Skarsgård character. We know what happened. He gets flipped,
yeah, we know that.
but we don't know what
But
happened to Jane.
yeah. But anyways, so she as she's trying to find a cure for her cancer, it's and she kind of starts looking into these like the kind of like the Thor, the Thor mythos, and like realizing that Mjolnir, can like supposedly like it has healing properties, such and such, and then she goes to New Asgard, and all of a sudden, for whatever reason, the hammer starts to like it's which we know is fragmented in pieces.
Right.
Yeah, which
All
it's
left Thor Ragnarok.
yeah, and so but the pieces of Mjolnir start reacting when she goes near it. And then we get this like cutscene of like, when the fuck did this happen? Like, this is where like I don't understand like when the fuck this happened. They go back into like the Thor and Jane Foster backstory. It's like, did this happen before Infinity War? Did
Right. So
did it?
the timeline is not clear.
It's not clear. Like I'm assuming it's no, it can't be. It can't be before Thor Ragnarok. Like, I don't know when this took place. Like, is it after Dark World? Is it before Thor Ragnarok? When the fuck did this happen? They never explain that. But apparently that because now, and for me, it has to be after the fact. It has to be after Thor Ragnarok because he wasn't king of Asgard then. He didn't necessarily have control of like who has who he can pass Mjolnir onto, but he in a drunken fit, like this drunken time with Jane, he's like, oh, he's talking to Mjolnir, and it's like, oh, always protect Jane Foster for me, and blah blah blah, and it's like that's how she is able to control the hammer all of a sudden. It's like, okay, fine.
Oh.
It's like, and I'm like, when the fuck?
That totally throws a monkey into the wrench in terms of continuity because it's like if he's able to have that kind of control over the hammer, then when his dad put the enchantment on it in the first movie, why couldn't he just say like whatever my dad said, don't do it, and then like they would that would have been the end of it.
Exactly. It's like, what? When did this? It doesn't explain when it happened, like where it falls in the timeline. So that's all. It's like, and even like my wife and I were looking at each other. When the fuck did this happen? It doesn't make any sense. It's like,
Right.
okay, all right, fine. Now she can control Mjolnir. Okay, got it. And they I guess they broke up for whatever reason. She was too focused on her science. He was too focused on being Thor, saving the galaxy or whatever. Um, what else was like super cringeworthy too? Oh, here's the other problem with this fucking movie that pissed me off so much. Now, all the Marvel films have their comedy aspect to them, which is fine. Like, and for the most part, sometimes it borders like on like being a little too much, but it definitely like it does have its serious moments, its good moments, and there's a little bit of comedy thrown in there. Great, kind of to relieve the tension. This whole movie was fucking dumbass jokes that like it ruined the movie. It's not like it's like there's every time there's like any sort of like, oh, we're bordering on a serious moment here, or
Right.
bordering on
They have to undercut that.
yeah, on like any serious moments like, oh, let's tell a stupid joke, like it's just like I fucking hated it. It's too much, way too much joking around. Like it's
Yeah,
they
I mean,
took
especially if they're introducing the concept of this character, who goes by the handle God Butcher. That's I would think that's a serious topic.
Christian Bale was the only like serious character in the in the movie. He was a good villain.
Mm-hmm.
He was a good character, and like you could argue that like maybe he had one funny moment, but like it was creepy. Like it was like it was in the line of being a bad guy.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's like he's the only fucking character that had any serious like his entire role was very serious. Everyone else is like they're enough. It's like a fucking comedy movie. Like it's like a spoof of like a if you're doing like whatever the scary movie version of superhero film would be. It's so bad. Like I
Oh
hated
yeah,
it.
well, I think they did do that. It's called superhero movie.
Did they? Oh my
Yeah,
god! I just like
yeah,
threw that off the top of my head. It's like good lord.
yeah. They did do that. It's called superhero movie, I
Um,
believe.
so, so that aspect I really hated. It was really bad. Um, and so they're trying to like so obviously they God Butcher attacks New Asgard. He steals all the kids. He so we get to see Jane Foster. She has Mjolnir. Oh, awesome! Like and like there's this stupid like running gag of like Thor having like this like he's like the axe and Mjolnir are like it's like he's in like a relationship with them and it's like, oh, I'm trying to leave my new girlfriend for like my old girlfriend. Oh, what? And it's like, oh, my ex has my ex, kind of stupid thing. I was like, oh my god, can we stop with this? It's not funny.
Oh, the
It,
the the hammer and like the axe.
yeah, it's like it's
Okay.
not funny. Stop it. It was not funny at all. It was like maybe it was kind of like funny the first time, but like after like it started, it never fucking stopped.
Mm.
The entire film. Um, and
I
then
mean,
like we
I
see
think
Jane.
well, okay, it would have been worse if Stormbreaker and Mjolnir became somewhat like anthropomorphized, and they kind of started acting as though they were like kind of like jealous lovers, trying to vie for Thor's affection. Did they do anything like that?
No, no,
Okay, thank God for that. Thank God for that.
that would have been way worse.
No,
Thank God they didn't.
exactly, exactly.
But it was like the next rung under that.
Ooh.
God, it was so fucking terrible. I hated it. And so obviously we get like so Jane Foster is now she's become well everyone most people like rightfully are calling her old lady Thor. It's like no, sorry, I'm Mighty Thor. And it's like
I know, but why do
it,
you have to appropriate the name Thor? It's like why can't you be like Lady Lightning
or something. And
or
the
Lady
other
Thunder? Lady Thunder. I would have accepted Lady Thunder.
here's the other thing too, which really just I was like, this is like I had already like kind of checked out at this point, but like this point, like I rolled my eyes so hard, I was like, I was gonna have, I thought I was gonna like black out. That's how hard I rolled my eyes. In like the final battle scene when she's like hit like so Thor's getting his ass kicked by the God Butcher, but all of a sudden Jane Foster comes in and starts saving the day, and she's like he called her like lady something. It's like no, I am Mighty Thor, or you can call me Dr. Jane Foster. It's like, oh, God. Oh, just stop it. Stop it.
I know.
It's
I
so
never
bad.
okay in the comic books. I never understood why they just gave her the name Thor. It's so ridiculous. That's a proper name, right? And again, like everyone, people, especially those of like who like defend like the whole Miles Morales Spider-Man or Falcon becoming Captain America, or even Dick Grayson becoming Batman. There's like, oh well, it's the mantle, it's the mantle. No, it's not. It's it's if you're in universe, yeah, you're right. It doesn't matter, because anyone could be Batman, anyone could be Captain America, but you know, but it's not. It's a story. We're outside. So Steve Rogers is Captain America. Bruce Wayne is Batman. Peter Parker is Spider-Man. And particularly in the case of Spider-Man, his origin story is so unique that how you're able to go about and make other spider people is
But he
completely
created
asinine.
not you recreate. It's like, oh, we created the second Spider-Man. It's like, no, and like, don't get me wrong, I don't hate Miles Morales. I actually think he's a good character. Um, especially
Right,
like
but
you have obviously you haven't played the Spider-Man video games on PlayStation, which are fucking great. Like the last one that came out, really awesome. And the way that they treat Miles Morales in this one, like, is like he's a cool character. Like I like Miles
right.
Morales, but
But yeah, but it's
with
like, but Thor is a proper name, and so it's like, you can make the mantle argument all you want, but it still doesn't matter because Thor is a proper name.
and
You
here's
know,
the
it's just
thing though, like
and again, it's just like I made this point to you before, but it's like you never had that problem with Japanese manga, because it doesn't matter if they the character falls within like a certain um, what's the word I'm looking? What's that thing?
they don't have this problem because like when a character dies, they die.
Well, no, okay, well, I mean, except for unless you're Goku, but
True.
but what is it? If the in Japanese manga, the character like some of the characters kind of are
They take the
they
character.
what is it? They follow like a certain like template. There you go, a template,
Yeah.
right? But they never do the whole mantle thing. I mean, because again, like you never have go you don't have Goku and then he dies and then someone else comes and takes his name and says, "Oh, I'm Goku," or
No.
someone
No.
or someone or like in Naruto, Naruto doesn't die and then someone comes up and like, "Oh, I'm the new Naruto." It's like no, that doesn't happen.
No.
So
And same thing like
so it's like the same thing with so that's what I'm talking about with Thor. It's like you you can't just say you can't just give Jane Foster the name of Thor and then start calling her Thor because Thor is a completely unique
character.
character.
And here's the thing: is like I didn't hate Jane Foster. Like in the first like two movies, she's not like this like damsel in distress. Like she's a contributing member to like she although does she have superpowers? No, but she has a smart mind
Right,
and
but
she's
she
able
helps
to
in
like
other ways. She helps in other ways.
exactly. And same thing, and like it's same thing with like her assistant, like Kat Dennings' character. Like she's fun too. Like I liked her character,
Mm.
but it's like you don't, and it's not even like Jane Foster is a human being. She's not she's not from Asgard. It's if they wanted to make like Lady Sif, if they wanted to make her like the new Thor, that at least makes a little bit more sense because she has
Right,
abilities
'cause, yeah,
herself.
she's an Asgardian, and then so you could like
Exactly.
so it makes more sense like to transfer, and then like she wouldn't and then she obviously wouldn't take the name of Thor. She would call herself something else, and also she also already goes by a handle, and like it'd be easy to just change it, to from Lady Sif to Lady Thunder.
Exactly, and that's what I'm saying. It's like that character was so fucking underutilized. It's criminal.
Hmm.
Lady Sif is cool. Like,
Yeah, and Jamie Alexander, she's not actually British.
get out of here.
Yeah, she affects a really good English accent, but she's not English. She's an American.
I would never thought that. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, because what is
But
it? She was on that she had her show like a little while ago. I forget what it's called. But
yeah,
she had tattoos all over, and she was speaking with like an American accent. I was like, huh? And then I looked her up, and she's like, oh, she's an American.
yeah. It's that would have been like to me like I think that would have been a better choice to do. Like, and I'm not saying you don't have Jane Foster in the movie because she's a fun character. I
Right,
like her
and then like
character.
yeah, and then you could do like a double. Okay, I mean, I'm not saying that I want this, but if they wanted to, then they could do like a double woman power thing and be like, have Lady Sif now Lady Thunder going out into battle, and you could still have Jane
Jane
Foster
Foster helping out. Like
helping out,
and the thing is,
contributing.
another one of my favorite comic book characters is Oracle. Which is from the Batman comics. Like
Right?
she
Yeah,
is she
yeah. Formerly
and
Batgirl.
formerly Batgirl, like who is she is a key member to the team. I wouldn't. She's not like she's not a damsel in distress. She's not like crying her eyes out. It's like, oh, I got hurt, whatever. Like no, she is using her brain And it's like, yeah,
Yeah,
that's what
she's
makes Jane
the
Foster
like
her brain.
kind of like Ned in Spider-Man: Homecoming. He was the guy. She was the guy in the chair.
Exactly. So I don't understand. Like, I just, um, so that was just so horrible. I hated the way that they used Jane. Uh, and to me, Natalie Portman, although she had a lot more screen time, this kind of felt like the one problem I had with Return of the Sith. She checked out. Like she was just kind of like doing her thing. It's like, I'm getting paid for this, and then this is like my exit, essentially. And Natalie Portman's one of those weird actresses who like she will turn in like these like brilliant performances, but then there's times where it's like, fuck this, I'm out of it. I'm so done with this. Like, and you can tell like when she cares and when she doesn't care.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the first two Thor movies, she cared. I think she did. She gave a damn with what she was doing. This movie, like, yeah, she was given more time, but she knew she was out of there. Like, I'm gonna die at the end of this. Who gives a shit anymore? Same thing with
Right.
Return of the Sith. She didn't give a shit. But then you get
Wait,
like
who?
performances like Natalie Portman.
Oh, no. Oh, you said who's the other character?
No, like so there's two movies like in particular, like this one because she dies in Love and Thunder, and she
Okay.
dies in Return of the Sith. Both of those performances, like she was.
Revenge of the Sith. Okay.
I'm sorry, Revenge of the Sith. Yeah,
Okay.
it's.
Yeah, I got confused because you're also crossing franchises, so I got confused.
But I'm sorry, I'm talking about like Natalie Portman in general.
Mm-hmm.
But then you get like performances like Black Swan or Leon the Professional or like some of these other like movies that she's been in,
Mm-hmm.
and it's like, wow, where like she's all over the place. Like it's more about like when she cares, she puts in a great performance. When she doesn't care, like it's garbage. This is a garbage performance from her, unfortunately. Um, the other thing that really was like so just a dumb comedy thing that didn't need to be there was there's this scene like where Thor is going to this what was it? It was like the city of the gods. Like it was what the fuck they call it? It was Omniscient City. And all these like gods of like Zeus is there. Zeus is like the head of everybody,
Mm-hmm.
and which was played by
Russell Crowe.
Russell Crowe. Thank you. He was there. I think originally it was supposed to be Arnold Schwarzenegger, but they like I don't know if they ended up like not being able to get him at the last second because I know they did like some promotional stuff with him as Zeus. And I think he either changed his mind or I don't know what happened, but they ended up putting Russell Crowe in there. Fine, perfect. He was fine as Zeus. I kind of liked him. He was kind of an asshole. See, like his comedy was kind of more fun. I actually liked Russell Crowe's performance. But then like so you have all these other gods there, and he does his like he uses his god powers like Thor is trying to get his help, use his lightning bolt to help like fight the God Butcher and like kind of warn these guys, hey, this guy's coming after us. We have to stop him. And Zeus is kind of very flamboyant. It's like, oh, whatever. And he does this thing. It's like, oh, I'm gonna, who are you? Because they're all wearing disguises. And he flicked off all his clothes, and everyone's like, ooh, all Jane Foster and Valkyrie, the King Valkyrie or whatever the fuck her name is. I don't care at this point anymore.
Right.
Where it's like,
Yeah.
let
I saw the trailer or whatever, and it's like, so are we gonna go help him? It's like in a little bit, and like eating grapes or whatever.
They're just like looking at his cock, and it's like, had this been like, I hate if the shoe was on the other foot, this had been like, every feminist would hate this. It's like, well, okay, if objectification in itself is wrong,
Yeah,
is
like
wrong.
regardless of sex. Yeah, if it was wrong regardless of sex, then why is it okay to objectify Thor? But like if the situation's reversed and it was Jane Foster, then that would have been a no.
But here's the thing: it's a dumb, stupid joke that doesn't fucking it doesn't make the plot go any further. It's just like, oh, if we're gonna make a comedy movie, then maybe it's funny, but it's not like, it's not supposed to be a comedy film. Like, yeah, you tell some jokes, you have like a little bit of like those moments of levity, but like, fuck, dude, like, this is too much. Like, it's like, stop it already. It was dumb. I hated the scene. It wasn't funny. It broke my brain, dude. I really fucking hated this film so much. Um, really, that's all. So that's pretty much all the movie. But here's the kicker, and this is where they're gonna move forward with the Thor movies. Is so the God Butcher, his plan is he's moving towards what's called towards eternity, which is the center of the universe. And when you reach there, um, he needed Thor's axe, which he gets, to open this door. And when he reaches there, it's able to grant any wish. And obviously, like, the wish that he is initially going for is to end, to kill all the gods. Okay, makes sense. He's the God Butcher. But Thor and Jane Foster convince him, it's like, oh, you gotta. Well, Jane at this point is like, she's succumbing to her cancer because, like, Mjolnir is not helping. It's actually destroying her. And for some reason, like, there's no. They don't even explain, like,
Right.
we're like,
Yeah, it's supposedly, is able to beef up her arms, but it can't beat cancer.
I don't know. Like I said, it doesn't make any sense. Fuck it. But like, she's dying at this like point, like, where they're at eternity, and they've destroyed his sword, which is like, what has been corrupting him, and he's dying too. And it's like, go. Thor is convincing him, it's like, go for love. It's like, you do what you have to do. Like, I'm not gonna fight you. I'm gonna spend my last moments with the person I love. You should do the same thing. Like, you can bring back the person that you love through this. So it's like, he's convinced. So he wishes for his daughter to be returned. And it's like, and he asks Thor to, no, Thor says, like, I will protect your daughter. Blah blah blah. It doesn't make any fucking sense. Okay, so then, you have Thor all of a sudden, Jane dies, God Butcher dies, and now Thor is essentially the dad, the foster dad to the God Butcher's daughter, and so the title of the movie is Love and Thunder. So she is like, her character is like Love. She has like special powers all of a sudden because she was resurrected from eternity, and Thor is Thor. So now they're Love and Thunder, and they have all these like weird special powers, and like, I have a feeling that the new little girl, she's gonna be like the new superhero that all of a sudden like saves the day, and like, we're supposed to care about all of a sudden, which I don't care about. And on top of that, like, the rock dude, right?
Yeah.
That we meet in Ragnarok. Apparently, like, because they just threw this in for whatever the fuck reason, it didn't need to be there. Apparently, like, his alien race, like, they require two guys to have sex and to create like rock babies. It's like, really? Like, and like, he ends up like falling in love with this like rock dude with this like super porn stash. I'm like, just, I couldn't do it anymore. I was like, why? I really hate this movie. It's so bad. I gave it a chance. I did. I really did. Like, because I was like, you know what? I like the director. He's done some good stuff. I like Chris Hemsworth. But no, this movie is horrible. It's horrible. And like, all the stuff that the people were like bitching about, like, oh, it's super woke in this way, and like, oh, it's trying to do this, like, that actually has nothing to do with it. It's just like, it's not good. It's not good. And here's the other. It doesn't. It kind of messes with like the whole timeline of like the action. From like the MCU movies prior. and it doesn't really. I don't think it contributes to anything going forward either. That's the thing.
Right.
Like
Well,
this
because
feels like
that's here's the thing that you're failing to understand. It's like they don't give a shit anymore. They literally don't give a shit anymore. That's why they can like do all these weird continuity errors, and they can literally just do whatever the fuck they want because they literally don't care anymore.
and like they made Thor, who was actually kind of like a cool character, and I hate him now. He sucks. They made him into like honestly, they made him like so the Chris Hemsworth that we get in like the first like few Thor films, who was really cool. They turned him into like Chris Hemsworth's character from like the 2016 Ghostbusters.
Yeah, Doofus Thor. He's Doofus
Yeah,
Thor now.
fucking doofus. I hate him.
Yeah, I told you back way back when, but you know um, especially after Endgame, I told you they completely destroyed Thor.
Yeah,
Particularly after Ragnarok, because after Ragnarok he fulfills his destiny. He fulfills kind of like the hero's journey, and he becomes his own father. He learns that after 15,000 years or whatever, he finally understands that it's time for him to be the
the
king of
leader.
Asgard, the leader. But then no, like
They abdicate the
Infinity
fucking
War happens, and then Endgame happens, and then he's like, and has that heart to heart with his mom, and it's like, oh, you have to be who you have to be, or you have to be who you want to be, not who you have to be. It's like, no, that completely undercuts the progress that he made in the previous three solo movies. At the end
yeah.
of Ragnarok, he finally takes his rightful place as the king of his people. And no longer does he have to be the warrior Thor. Now he has to be King Thor, and he has to and he has to throw off all of the things of his youth, and now be and like because his father dies in Ragnarok, we all become our own fathers, and and that's and Thor becomes his own father, and becoming the king of Asgard over his people. But
Yeah.
they chuck
It's
it
like
all out. They chuck it all out the airlock in Infinity War and Endgame.
they turned him from the first movie. They went from him being like, is he immature? Absolutely. But then they turned him into, like they turned him from just like being immature to like an infantilized boy.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Exactly.
like I have I just I was so glad when it was over. I was like, thank God.
Yeah, that's why I didn't even. That's why I never even bothered to watch this movie. Even though you told me the entire story of this movie, I still don't want to go watch this movie.
No, don't, please don't do it.
Because again,
I I've been
they ruined Thor, after the third one, and again specifically after Infinity War and Endgame.
yeah, all this like new phase like has made me want to do. Although I like I said, I have liked specific movies. Like I did like the new Doctor Strange. I did like that one. I did like the new Spider-Man film. I thought that was good. Everything else has been kind of like hit or miss. Like or, a lot of it miss. I thought the Eternals was like mediocre at best.
Yeah, no, I didn't even
Um,
watch Internals.
um,
I didn't
Loki
care to.
wasn't. Yeah, Loki was okay. I liked Loki a lot. Um, it had elements of it that I really liked. I liked WandaVision. There were elements of Falcon and the Winter Soldier that I thought were good. I actually liked the Hawkeye show a lot. Not a lot of people did. I actually liked it. I didn't think they did a bad job with that one. Black Widow is mediocre at best. It was like a movie that should have happened way earlier that never happened. Um,
Yeah,
but
I mean,
yeah, it's
if Black Widow had come out um, in place of what is it, Captain Marvel, I would have been happy.
fuck
Even
yeah, dude.
even with its mediocre story, I would appreciate it more if it came out then, because then it would actually make sense, because it gives us context of what happened after Civil War leading into Infinity War.
Like I said, I give this movie like I'm the only star I'm giving it a half star, and that's all Christian Bale. He's the only thing that's good about this film is Christian Bale. That's it. But speaking of, did you see like the stuff with with your girl Brie Larson? Like she someone I forget what event it was, but they're asking, "Oh, are you gonna be Captain Marvel again?" It's like, does anybody want me anymore? It's like she had this like really like, oh, like no one likes me face.
Oh, I thought I,
God,
I thought she was having a moment of self awareness.
no, she is. She doesn't like no
Oh,
one like.
okay. Oh, so she
She
was like,
realized she realizes that like no one likes her. Like no, the audience doesn't like her. The cast doesn't like her. And Disney apparently realizes like nobody fucking wants to see her. That's why we have like that dumbass Miss Marvel show.
yeah,
That also no one
I
is watching.
passed that. I passed on that.
I haven't seen that either. It's like no one wants to see that either. Just like She-Hulk, no one wants to see that shit.
Yeah. Although our friend Dancing Jason, he swears by She-Hulk, but I refuse.
No offense, but sometimes his taste is a little fucking odd.
Yeah, I mean, I love the guy, but yeah, She-Hulk's a pass for me.
It's a hard pass. Fuck that shit. They honestly like I don't because I was talking with like another friend of the podcast too, Gay Alex.
Mm-hmm.
He's also like a comic book guy, and he's like he really hates the Mark Ruffalo version of the Hulk because like it's like he was awesome until the stupid Professor Hulk thing, like through whatchamacallit, through Endgame. He's
Yeah.
like they turned like
Yeah, they neutered
it's
him.
stupid.
Yeah, they
Yeah,
neutered him.
like they neutered him, and that's what. And he's like, he watched like he was like, because I was super bored one day. It's like I watched the first episode of She-Hulk,
Mm-hmm.
and I hated myself for it because it's awful. I was like,
I
man,
bet
like
you.
I know like he's willing to give stuff as like a try, just like fuck it, I'll give it a shot. He's like, don't do it, dude. You just don't waste your time. He's like, I fucking hated it. I was like, dude, if you hate it, then I know it's shit. I'm a woman, like that's I'm always angry. I'm catcalled, like that. I'm always holding it in. Like I'm the stronger version, and then you are Hulk. Oh my
Yeah,
God,
yeah. You say you're the more emotionally controlled one as you're having emotional freakout.
yeah,
Okay.
so stupid.
But
Fuck all
anyways,
this.
but yeah,
But yeah, that's
that's
my
not yeah, that's
point.
not the only. Yeah, I mean,
That's not
I
not the
probably
only.
should have cut you off a little bit sooner, but but yeah, that's not the only thing that you're irked by. And that is the most recent Disney project that just recently debuted, or at least the trailer did. And that was the new Little Mermaid movie.
Man, I don't know about you, but like, were we? I think everyone was asking about a new. Hey, we need to have a remake of Little Mermaid, man. Like,
Of course,
God, it's about fucking time.
dude, that's my top one list. All right, a new Little Mermaid. Come on.
It would only be better if this was like maybe like a live action instead of animated. Wouldn't you agree?
Oh, totally, absolutely. That's exactly what I've been asking for. Exactly.
Same thing with like Pinocchio and Lion King and Beauty and the Beast. And it's like, oh man, I'm so glad that they're making these, quote unquote live action remakes. It's so great, dude.
Yeah, and totally, race swapping main characters. Exactly what I've been asking
Except so Ariel in the supposedly because we have to have more people of color in our movies, which if hey, we've talked about this. You want to have some original content like that has like a black or Mexican or a Chinese character, we're all for it. Go for it. Like, and if it's good, we're gonna watch it. But no, but in China, because they don't like black people. Okay, that's why, like, what's his face? Boyega from John Boyega from Star Wars. They took his face kind of off the poster of Star Wars
They
because
shrunk him down and put him in like the very
I
corner of the poster.
I also guarantee that is why he is not a key part of the sequels either, because he was a big part of Force Awakens, and all of a sudden his role really went down, right?
Yeah.
I think it's because of the Chinese don't like black people, so it's like, oh well, we got to get rid of him, kind of.
Yeah.
So
Although
same thing with
I hear for this Little Mermaid, they are gonna lighten up that girl's skin,
oh
and she's already on the lighter side, but they're gonna
oh
light
yeah,
her up. They're gonna light her up even more.
they're gonna make her whiter than me. That's how light up. I mean, seriously,
Yeah.
dude.
Although, yeah,
They
there is that clip going around the internet right now of some random guy who took that footage and through
from
AI
China,
or whatever.
the Chinese guy
Oh, from
apparently.
China? From oh yeah,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
he took the black girl and made her into a white girl.
yeah. So I thought that it was more important that we have more representation, right?
That's all
But
that's what I've
but
been saying forever.
but apparently that's not what we're getting from China and Saudi Arabia and all these
Jeddah.
places that don't like this shit.
Alright, let's go. That's Jeddah.
All these places where, like, oh shit, Disney's making maybe more money than they are in America. So we got to cater to that crowd, but we're gonna force shit on the Americans because they're bigoted, horrible racists. But in those other countries, they're better than us, right? Even though they are, in China, they have all that slavery, going on with the Uyghur Muslims, all while they're filming like Mulan, not 100 miles away. It's like,
Yeah, they're the ones who provide craft services.
yeah, and then you have, like with the Buzz Lightyear movie, it's like, oh well, we're gonna have like people don't want the lesbians, so we're gonna take it out. Oh, but now because of like the Ron DeSantis stuff and because of Roe versus Wade, we're gonna put that back in, except in the Muslim countries who hate gay people. It's like, maybe I don't think that you actually believe in these things. You want to push an agenda, but you also don't want to lose money. So, like here, I mean, obviously they lost money here because that Buzz Lightyear movie was, I think, one of the biggest flops. It was the worst performing Pixar film by far,
Mm-hmm.
and this Little Mermaid film is not going to perform well. I guarantee fucking it.
No, it's not.
I'll be shocked if it makes a lot of money. It's not going to,
Yeah, I
because
mean, I'll be shocked. I'll be shocked if it even makes $500 million. So $500 million. I'll be surprised if it makes that.
it's. I'll be shocked if it makes that. To be honest, I'll be
But
shocked if it makes $100 million. That's how much I really don't believe that this film is going to do well.
of course not. Cause they don't believe in this shit, or like the people making this don't believe in this shit. And and you by now you have to know that this thing only goes one way, because if there were calls for a white Black Panther or what is it? There's a folktale from West Africa of Anansi the spider, and they decided, what, we're gonna be really progressive, and even though this story comes from Africa and is about African tribal people, we're gonna cast it exclusively with people from Switzerland. It's never gonna happen. So so what Rob was saying was correct. These people who put out these works, saying that you must accept this as reality, you must accept this as the default. They don't believe in this shit. because again, uh, Boyega was the canary in the coal mine because again, as Robert said, I do believe that his character was meant to be meant to have a bigger role, but because of of the Chinese market, and because to an extent, I think Disney knew that they weren't going to be making their $1 billion domestically. The $1 billion would only come if they included the international markets, particularly China. They bent the knee. So yeah, they made this one movie with Boyega being a pretty prominent character, and then you have him returning as kind of the comic relief, and he has to be saved by a girl.
He was useless in like like he was a cool character. He was one of
Yeah, he
the
was a
like
very intriguing character, and
Force
I think he was meant to be a Jedi, and he would have been the first stormtrooper to become a Jedi.
Yeah, and I guarantee it's because of China. Because like, oh shit, China doesn't like this guy, and they like cut him off the poster. I guarantee that's why he was not he became like a joke at the end of it. And even John Boyega, like he talks about like how he was so misused and mistreated
Yeah,
in a lot of things.
there's no love loss between. Uh,
And he was one of the coolest characters in Force Awakens. I really liked his character.
yeah, he was very interesting because he was a character that broke through his conditioning,
Yeah,
since birth. Because no more were stormtroopers, volunteers, or kind of like how we have it here in America. The kids that go through like
they were.
military school. These kids were indoctrinated at birth
Yeah,
to be soldiers. But but for some reason he was able to break free of it, and like maybe it was because of where he was, and like the maybe the planet Jakku. I don't know too much about like the extended universe or like the legends stuff, but I do believe Jakku was a pretty significant planet in terms of like the Force, and and maybe Jakku was on a ley line for like the Force, and and because of his latent Force sensitivity, that's the reason why he was able to break through his conditioning, and that would have been an amazing story to tell.
yeah. See, it's like it's a missed opportunity, and so because a lot of people are like, "Oh, you guys are racist. You don't like black people," and like all these other like characters in your movies. Like that is the exact opposite of what's going on. In fact,
No, actually, not to contradict you, but yeah, I hate black people, but I love niggas.
uh, no, because I mean, like it's like you said, I literally like I watch so many of these like movies where like yeah, like white people are not the characters. Like I'm a huge fan of. I was just talking about like the human condition. That there are no white characters in that film at all. Um, like you said, I watch a lot of Japanese movies. I watch a lot of Korean movies. I watch a lot of like movies like where I like stars like Idris Elba and Eddie Murphy, Chris Tucker. I actually like John Boyega. I think he's a good actor. He just got kind of really shafted by Disney and Star Wars. And there's a lot, like I mean I could go on. There's so many like actors and another thing like where we need to have more black directors in Hollywood. Well, why hasn't like Antoine Fuqua been like a more prominent director in Hollywood nowadays? He's so good. All of his movies are awesome.
Yeah, actually, he was he. I don't know if I don't know if he directed, but he was involved in that Chris Pratt thing for Amazon, the Terminal List.
Oh shit, really?
Yeah,
Oh, I gotta watch that now because like I said, I
it's
love.
good. It's good. I mean, it's not the most amazing thing. It's not like it's not like the most original thing I've ever seen, but it's entertaining, right? And it's like
That's the point.
and
Like
it tells a good story, and it doesn't go into like the whole like politics thing is just a guy who gets shafted and he's out for revenge. That's it.
Yeah, great. I love it. It's and but like I said, oh, why can't we find black directors in Hollywood? It's like, well, the ones that have been out there, you kind of like you seem to just throw off, oh, we've never had a black superhero. It's like Blade, hello, Wesley Snipes,
Blade,
um,
Meteor Man.
Spawn. Yes,
What?
Spawn is I think
Oh,
I
Spawn. That's right. Yeah. Frank
yeah
Simmons or
yeah.
Al Simmons.
Yeah, and unfortunately, Action Jackson had become a franchise like it should have been.
Oh my God. Yeah, with Carl Weathers.
Yeah, fuck, dude. I want that.
Dude,
I
that would
want
have been.
Action Jackson like franchise, dude. And the other thing too, like, we obviously he was in a ton of like schlock, but like a lot of or not schlock, but like the black exploitation stuff. But that he wrote himself was Fred Williamson. We love Fred
Mm-hmm,
Williamson. He's
mm-hmm.
awesome. Boss is one of the best movies of all time. I'm saying it's great.
Oh, for those of you who are not familiar, the full title is Boss Nigger.
That is true. That is the title that Fred
I
Williamson
know.
created.
Fred Williamson
The
came
black
up with
man.
that title. A black man came up with that title. And if you don't say the whole title, then you're a racist.
You're not honoring Fred Williamson. But it's one of the greatest movies of all time. It's
I love that
hilarious.
movie. I
It's
love that. And
action-packed.
what is it? His sidekick is so hilarious. I fucking love
Dude,
that guy.
he steals the show. The sidekick is the best. We gotta watch
Absolutely.
that movie again. What else? I mean, it's like the list goes on. There's so many like of these like great directors and writers and actors that like, oh, you guys don't care, you just want white people doing white stories, and like it's like, no, I don't care. Like, and or if it's like we talk about it ad nauseum too, like Predestination. It talks about a story that it has a
Yeah.
narrative that we do not agree with, but guess what, the movie's fucking entertaining as all hell. It's awesome. And
It tells a
it's like,
good
I see
story.
all the history, but you know what? I'm gonna watch Predestination again. It's so good. It's fun. And it's like, so if you want to tell your weird ass story, create a cool like little story. Create your own narrative. Have your black actor, have your stories with your lesbian or transgender or whatever character. And if the story's good, most likely I'm gonna watch the damn thing. It doesn't have anything to do with like, we don't care about skin color or who wrote it or who's directing it. It's like, just put out a prominent project. We're gonna watch it. We're gonna discover it at some point. It has not. It's
Yeah.
when you
All you have to do is create a quality product, and we will consume. That's all it is. Like
exactly.
imagine going to like a whatever kind of restaurant. I mean, and you could say like Denny's or IHOP is a whatever kind of restaurant. But if you have a restaurant that that only puts out like mediocre food, like how often would you like be really wanting to go there? Probably not. I mean,
No,
don't get me wrong. There's nothing against like Denny's or IHOP or any of those kind of diner kind of joints, but it's not. That's not at the top of my list when I think about where I want to go have dinner or where I want to go and like hang out with my friends.
yeah, it's like, I mean, if I was gonna choose one of those like kind of like semi mediocre diners, I'm going to Norms. All right,
There you go. There you go. Steak and eggs.
Steak and eggs for $10. You can't beat that.
Mm.
But like it's this is the first time a black gay female is gonna play a mermaid. It's like, no, in fact, you're doing like some sort of appropriation. Like, you're not doing anything original.
Right.
You're
yeah, that's Hans Christian Andersen. All right, fucking Dutch person, and that's a Dutch story. All right, because again,
Yeah.
I mean, while you're away, I made the point where like, because it only goes one way. you're never gonna see calls for a white Black Panther or a white Blade or
Nope.
or white Falcon or hell like even like adapting African folklore like what if like they decided to make like an Anansi the Spider movie and they decided okay you know what instead of using black people we're going to cast it with all Swedish people.
It's never gonna
It's
happen.
never
No
gonna
one
happen,
had to happen.
right? Yeah, people were like losing their shit when it was kind of like a joke, but some people took it seriously and they said like maybe they cast Leonardo DiCaprio to play MLK in a biopic, because like it's like we're getting to that point in technology where like with the dots and everything, and you could like make Leo black, but it's like why
And
not?
that was the awesomeness of like a movie like Tropic Thunder, right? It's making fun of that.
Yes,
It's
exactly.
making fun of like it's not a racist thing, and because even like Jamie Foxx was talking about, it's like who is really good friends with Robert Downey Jr. is like, no, I was not offended by that. It was fucking funny,
Right,
and
because
it's like
because he wasn't making because they weren't making fun of black people. They were making fun of method actors.
exactly that, because you have like this like you get like this really good actor, but it's like, well, fuck, no one's gonna go see some like no name. We're gonna get this big name here, and like we'll just we'll doctor him up a little bit. That's why Alec Guinness plays like an Arabian guy in Lawrence of
Lawrence of
Arabia,
Arabia.
or yeah, and like some of the other movies, like he does kind of play that character.
Yeah, he plays a lot of
Okay,
ethnic characters.
Natalie Wood. She plays a Puerto Rican in West Side
What's that
Story,
story?
and she does a fucking fantastic job, by the way.
Mm-hmm.
Eli Wallach. He's a Mexican in
Yeah,
uh,
but he's a
Magnificent
Jew.
Seven. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly.
Yeah. He plays an Italian in the third Godfather movie.
Oh God, that's right, he does. Oh my God.
Yeah, but he's a Jew. Yeah,
Yeah. Well, then again, so is whatchamacallit, James Caan. He's a Jew
True.
who
Yeah,
plays.
he's a Jew too. He's a Jew that plays a very convincing Italian.
Dude, even like the Italian, like, so because The Godfather was such a big hit, like even like the like all like this like Italian stuff, they would always like have James Caan come as like, he would be like honored as like, they would treat him like he was an Italian. It's like he was so honored by that. It's like, wow, I cannot believe that like this community like took me in, because
Mm-hmm.
it's like I'm just like a Jew from Brooklyn or whatever, wherever the fuck he was from, and it's like this is so like humbling that they would do that. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, and he would be like in all this Italian shit, like he'd be like all these like Italian days and all that stuff, like, and he
Mm-hmm.
was really honored by that.
Yeah, and
So
I mean, he did kind of get typecasted, but he was just that convincing. But again,
it's
and again, like to the point, like the Italians embraced him. There weren't cries for him like, oh, how dare you? All right, you got to put an Italian guy in there. No, there was no such thing.
even like super lefty Bryan Cranston, who I like as an actor, because there was that movie he did like where he played a paraplegic, and it's like,
Mm.
oh, you should have had a paraplegic actor in that role. It's like, it's called acting, you fucking morons. Like, it's like that's the whole point.
Right.
Like,
It's like okay, then to that point, it's like should we have gotten a dead guy to play a dead guy? If the
should we
character
have
like if the
Bernie
character eventually ends up dying, then that means that we have to cast a dead person from the start and do like a Weekend at Bernie's type of shit.
seriously, like, Bernie would, in today's world, Bernie would be a dead person, like a corpse that they dig out of the grave, and it's like, oh, look, he's a dead guy. It's like, fucking sake, bullshit. I really fucking hate that. We live in the dumbest timeline. And this is why like I talk about this stuff, not because like I hate the fact that there are black actors or Mexican actors or whatever. I like that doesn't bother me at all. In fact, like I said, I watch a ton of foreign movies. I like them.
Mhm.
But like I get so tired of the hypocrisy of like these, large production companies in Hollywood who they supposedly care about like, oh, we need to have this and that, we need to have representation. Oh, but not here in these other countries where we make money and like they don't like that stuff. So we're gonna just cut those
Right.
people out.
And also, yeah, and also double hypocrisy because if they really felt that way, then why don't they give up their positions? Like, give up the positions at the major studios, give up their positions in the academy.
Or
If they really felt convicted and like was really about that life, then they would they'd walk the walk, but they don't.
or give it or not give two fucks about the Chinese money or the Saudi Arabian money or the Middle Eastern money
Mm-hmm.
and just like stick by your convictions. Okay, they don't like it, then fuck them.
That too. But again, like I mean, if anything, Top Gun Maverick proved uh, that you could put out a completely politically neutral movie and still have representation, and still make $1 billion just domestically.
Multiracial and gender cast,
Mm-hmm.
and it had nothing to do with like oh we need to have a gay person, we need to have a this person, and like oh it's the first
Right, because
time.
it doesn't matter because like the whole premise is like they're the best fighter pilots of like their
Yeah,
generation. And it's like, and it doesn't matter that there are two chicks there. It doesn't matter. I didn't care because it was already established that they were the best. I was like, okay, as long as they're the best,
got it.
you know,
And
got
it's
it,
like it's something about
right?
like this is the
And they weren't constantly putting it in the faces of the other pilots. They're like, you know, they whatever insult that particularly the Hangman character dished out, the Phoenix character, the main female fighter pilot, she was able to dish back to him.
that's why it's awesome. That's why it's awesome.
Right. And again, yeah, there's like, and again, like you want to talk about representation, that the group of, the elite fighter pilots, that was as diverse as it comes. There was, a black guy, there are a couple of black guys, there are a couple of Asian guys, there are women. You want representation, there you go. And even in leadership, because you had, one of the admirals was black.
Another like what the fuck is the movie? I'm forgetting the name of the movie right now, but like one of my favorite movies, like even though it's like it's not good, but I still like it a lot. It was it oh Cradle to the Grave. That's the one with DMX and Jet Li
Mm.
and all those people. It's like
Mm-hmm.
there is nary a white person in that film, like at least among the main actors.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like it's a great fucking movie. It's awesome. It's stupid, but I like it. Yeah, it's like that's another thing. It's like I don't care about that stuff. Like just give me a entertaining movie. It doesn't have to be like super deep. Just make it fun. It's okay. And even the ones that like are like super deep, like I mean, how many times have we like really dug deep into Kurosawa films? Like how there's nary a white person in there either.
Precisely. Exactly. But again, like the studio heads and stuff, they're gonna look at Top Gun and Maverick, and if they don't think it's just a fluke, they're gonna take the wrong lessons from that movie.
Well, you're starting to see this too with Netflix is really like, yeah, we're no longer gonna just like greenlight all this like bullshit that like you guys like are putting out here because nobody fucking wants it.
Yeah.
Same thing with
Yeah.
the
It was like that old South Park joke where the boys call into Netflix and it's like, hi, your project is greenlit. This is Alan. How can I help you? Because like Netflix was so thirsty for content that they just greenlit everything.
yeah, it's the same thing with like on HBO right now too. Like they like literally threw a movie that was essentially done. They threw that in the fucking trash. They didn't even like attempt to put it out. It's like fuck
Oh yeah,
it,
yeah,
no.
the Batgirl movie, and again another race swapped character, a black girl, black girl, Batgirl, being played, who has historically been a white redhead. Has
Yeah,
now been again. I don't know why they always go for the redheads. They did it with they did it with Batgirl. They did it
because they have
with
no
They did it with with Ariel. I don't know why, but like because this person is the character isn't even technically white, but Starfire from Teen Titans, like they
Yep.
inexplicably turned her into a black character.
Because redhead no soul. That's why.
Yeah, exactly. And then in the musical that they made into a movie, Annie. There you go, Annie. Again, they switched out the little redheaded
No,
girl for a little
not
black
again.
girl. Yeah,
Get
with
the fuck out.
yeah, Jamie Foxx, and Jamie Foxx is the new Daddy Warbucks.
I don't hate that as much, but like, no, they didn't. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean it was basically urban Annie, but again, yeah, they switched out the white redheaded girl for a black girl, curly headed black girl.
God, I did not know that. Oh my god.
Yeah, I mean,
I mean,
I'm just
not
I'm not that I'm saying
that,
that I want this, but I'm just like waiting for them to go like full hog and like just do like Black Pippi Longstocking.
that no, I'm not even saying that like because I'm not necessarily a huge fan of Annie. Like it's not
Mm-hmm.
like, oh man, I gotta watch Annie again.
Mm-hmm.
I think I've watched that like once and like, but it's still like it's just like why? It's like create your own thing. Just do it. It's not. It's like I mean, are you that hard up on like ideas?
Yeah, I
Maybe
mean,
oh, you can be inspired by Annie for fuck's sake.
yeah, I
Like at
mean, what is
least
it
like
like? Yeah, it was derivative and based on the Wizard of Oz, but they had the black Wizard of Oz, Wiz.
that was
That's
who she
completely
is.
fine. Completely fine. I'm completely okay with it.
I don't know. I get so tired of this stuff. And like I said, it's not. It's just because I just love the hypocrisy of it because everyone's like, oh man, Disney and all these companies they're going for it, man. But like, no, they're not. They don't care about that stuff because if they really had the heart to do this, they wouldn't. They were like, oh, China doesn't like it. Well, fuck them. Okay, we fuck their money. We don't need it. We're gonna stick to our agenda. At least have some fucking backbone. But as soon as these countries, like the countries, push back on them, oh, I'm sorry, Mr. G. We'll whiten our character, or we'll eliminate our black character in our movie. Or oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Prince from Saudi Arabia, or
Yeah,
whoever the
Habib
fuck
Habib.
on. We'll take out our gay shit. Give me a fucking break.
Indeed. All right. Yeah, I think we talked this. I think we talked this one to the ground. So.
Yeah.
All right. All right. Next
And
topic.
fuck Thunder. I hate that movie.
I know I shouldn't let you go on as much as you do, but I know if you don't get it out, I'm gonna hear about this some other time. So it's just better for you. It's just better for you to get it all out now.
You'll never hear this from me ever again.
Famous last words. Anyways, all right, let's go to the next discussion topic. Um, and this actually came about from my trip. I was driving back home with one of my friends, and and it's a woman, and she's more and she's a little bit more to the right of center, and we're just kind of just like talking, and kind of and even on the way down, we are having like these really nice conversations about like how everything woke turns to shit and whatever. But then the subject of kind of voting came about, and then and I just because I've known her, it's been a while actually, it's been a while since I've seen her. But she knows like where like my politics generally lie, but I just kind of like went for it. I was like, yeah, I don't think women should vote. And she was like, why? And I was just and I just went through the kind of the talking points, like, oh well, women ruin everything. They're too okay. They're generally too emotional. They're too emotional and they're too compassionate. for their own goods. And also basically is that, just coming from a biblical point of view, it goes against the standards of God, because what giving the vote to women did is split the vote within a family. And so, and if you believe in the biblical order of things, God, man, woman, child, the God, the man is the head of the family, and so, and the family should go where, the man leads. And so, but then if you give the woman the vote, that, then the family becomes fractured.
Well, because what it used to be was the idea of like the household structure. It was like one vote kind of per household per se.
Exactly.
And that doesn't mean that like women were not involved in politics in any sense. Like, because obviously they had the ear of their husband. Because like we're not saying that women were dumb or anything like that, or like, oh, okay, whatever, who knows. In fact, like the women at that time were definitely more attuned to like what's actually going on. Like they're pretty smart,
Right.
and it's
Exactly.
like so they're able to say like, hey, like this seems like a little weird, and I'm sure there was a lot more political discussion, at least when it came to local politics, because there were things were much more localized. But like I said, it was a household that was voting, not
Exactly.
necessarily a household unit, not just like everybody should just vote. Who gives a shit?
Right. No, because
Um,
she put up the argument of, oh, what about me? Because, like, I actually, look into the, issues, and, do my research and yada yada yada. And I was like, yeah, that's fine. Then you can help your
you
dad. I mean, because
you are one of a very rare few that are actually doing that, though. That's the
right,
problem.
right. But then, yeah, exactly. Because, like, on our way down to Oceanside, she was recounting a story about how this girl she knew, like, unironically and sincerely uttered the phrase, when looking at all of the candidates on a ballot, this girl uttered out, like, I wish someone would just tell me who to vote for. And I told her, like, you're saying that you want that woman to vote.
Honestly, this is not just a woman problem. This is a guy problem. Like this is why.
I don't get me wrong. Yes, you're right. But, the subject just came about, women's voting. So
Yeah. Oh, I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just like I'm going even past this, like because there are so many
right,
people
yeah,
that should.
and I also made the point, like if and I told her, like, yeah, and I only think that, landowner should be the only one voting. And I gave her, like, the reasons why, and, like, how it's like originally that's how it's supposed to be set up, and, like, if you don't put in for the pizza, you don't have a say in the toppings. And, if you
Bingo.
don't own land, what do you care if a landowner has to pay more in taxes?
Bingo. It doesn't affect you.
It doesn't affect you. So why? It's like, well, it's like, so of course, like, especially, like, and again, women, because they're generally more compassionate. They're like, oh, like, we want to raise property taxes to fund, you know uh, some sort of welfare thing, like, a service like a soup kitchen, or, but, name the thing. It's like, oh, we want to, use that tax money to do some other good. And they're like, oh, of course I want to do that thing. But then again, like, because they're not the ones who have to foot the bill, they're constantly going against themselves.
And guess what? That money is not going to that fucking soup kitchen. Like guarantee it.
Exactly.
It's.
Exactly. And
But yeah,
again, yeah, I mean, yeah, and yeah, my friend, she's a smart woman. She owns her own business. She makes her own money and everything. And but again, I'm also coming from a biblical perspective. And I'm really trying to live my life, uh, in a more biblically centered view. And if I'm gonna be doing that, I have to follow the model that, God Himself, set
put
forth.
together.
Yeah, is set up for us.
Well, and another thing too, because not everyone lives their life that way,
Right.
and I understand that. But let's look at the arguments that the women of that time, when this was being proposed, that they were like, I don't want, because they were thinking like, now it didn't happen, of course, but the reality is like, wait a second, we don't want the right to vote. That because with that comes all these extra responsibilities that we don't want to do. We don't want to be drafted. We don't want
Well,
to,
exactly. Yeah, because people, what a lot of people, again, men too. A lot of people. So that's why I say people. What a lot of people don't realize is the way that all men got the franchise is that we had to. We basically had to sign our lives away. In that we have, if you're a man and you turn 18, then you got something in the mails that called selective service, and you have to sign that, and you have to send it back in, saying and that piece of paper stated that if the country went to war and there was a manpower shortage, you could be drafted. That was
no
kind
one
of that
like
was the
fucking
thing in the 70s with Vietnam.
spoiler alert, we're still doing that, by the way.
Yeah, exactly. And so yeah, so women thought like back, way back when, that if they got the vote, then they would have to be eligible for the draft, or you know, or even more locally, they would have to help in like the bucket brigade if there was ever a fire. Um,
Yeah,
just basically any type of civic service. They thought
and,
that they
and
would have to be responsible.
yeah, and guess what? Like, the women had no say in this vote for women getting the vote.
Exactly.
So
Another point that I point out to my friends, like women couldn't even vote for their own suffrage.
exactly. And like, sure, did you have women that were campaigning for that? Yeah, but I don't think that they completely understood what was at stake either. And it's the same, like, it's the same bitch brigade that was like behind, prohibition and all this
Yeah,
other.
the temperance movement.
Yeah, it's the same dumbasses that were behind
So yeah, the
that.
same
And
loudmouth, ugly ass bitches that never got married, who wanted to, who
man,
want.
the same people that are doing the sex strike today because of Roe.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah, the same type of people who are saying, you know what, if we don't have the right to kill our babies, then you get none of this. And they're like
Thank God.
300 pounds, and their blood type is pudding.
Yeah, it's like Tess Holiday. Ugh.
Yeah. Ugh.
I I I was there was something I was like I was telling my wife and one of her friends about this. Is like because they didn't believe me. I was like, yeah, there's like this quote unquote like supermodel that is about like 500 pounds, and she was on like they cover all these magazines. Like, get the fuck out of here. It's like, okay, type up this this Tess Holiday. Oh my god, ew. It's like,
Yeah, and
like
that
they
and,
have
and that's the reaction of women.
yeah, it's like it's just like she has all this like pussy fat, which is like called the fupa, I think.
Yeah, the
And it's
fupa.
like
Yeah.
I was telling them, it's like, and then all of a sudden like we were somewhere, and like we had to, I think we went to like a Target, and there's just like one person that was there. It's like I was like, yeah, like there was another lady that was in line that was like about as fat, and it's like, yep, there's the fupa, and they're like, oh my god, ew, like it's like, yeah, see, this is what I'm talking about. It's ridiculous. And
But
even like,
yeah, huh?
I was saying, like, even like my wife, who was like, because she's not like super, she doesn't really understand a lot of like, the American, well, politics in general, but like,
Uh-huh.
definitely the American politics is like, when, because she's gonna become a citizen soon, and
Mhm.
she's like, yeah, whenever we vote, just tell me who to vote for. It's like, because I know it's like, works for me. It's like, I'll help you.
Right. But again, it goes to my point. It's like, it should be only one vote. It's
But like said, if she became a citizen on her own, like she would either like not vote, but like I wouldn't want her voting because she doesn't know.
Well, exactly, and that's why I qualified it like only landowners.
Yeah, and that's not her fault though.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, okay, and and I, and again, like I even said to my friends, like, yeah, like that would bar me from, participating in the process as well.
Same
But
here.
I'm okay with it. But I'm okay with it.
I would gladly abdicate my vote for that to come back.
Yeah. If
to repeal the
amendment, if we could get it back to get it back to that original system, and like if I can take out 10 ignorant votes by by having that standard in place, that which would take me out of the process, I would gladly trade that.
I'll do it.
I'll do it right now. If I had the button to make it happen, I would push it right now.
I'd be a lot happier, to be honest.
I know. I don't need that aggravation.
Because honestly, no leftists really own anything.
There you go. Exactly.
Not enough of them, at least.
Yeah, and again, like again, we're talking about like ideologically left people, like, and when we say that, we're talking about socialists, not like the moderate Dems who are able to have businesses and be successful and whatever, and who kind of get it on like taxes and things like that. We're talking about socialists.
Yeah, fuck those people.
Yeah, the Bernie types that that couch surf like their entire lives, who get kicked out of communes for being too lazy. Who's never had a job in the private sector.
And this is not a hatred of women. We don't hate women.
No, of course not.
In fact, there's a lot of smart women that I know. And
my friend, she's a smart girl.
And if she became like a landowner, it's like, you know what, great. Like, there you go. You have the right to vote. But like, I've obviously, like, we can't throw that toothpaste back in the tube. I would be, like I said, we've talked about this in the past, where it's like, we need to have some sort of civics test, not only to run for office, but to vote too. Like, there has to be some sort of, like, you have to understand how the fucking country is supposed to run before you can participate in it. You can't vote if you don't know how it's supposed to work, and you definitely can't like be a congressman or a governor or a mayor or a senator or a fucking president if you don't even know how the country is supposed to run.
Oh, and also no dual citizenship for people in Congress.
No. And I've also talked about this too. You have to divest your investments, because if you're part of the legislature, or hell, even the judiciary, to be honest, like, you have to be honest, any person in government that has anything to do with laws, you have to get rid of your investments. You have to sell them off. You have to give them off to somebody else, whatever, to like non-family members or whatever. But you have to get rid of it to be in public service.
Yeah, or you have to put all that money in like trust. But yeah, you have to great wall that shit.
Yeah, because for us plebes, it's called insider trading. We go to federal prison, but for them, it's just like, it's just part of the game.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
It's just
it's kind of a joke, but like it's one stock traders says to another ask another stock trader, like, oh, do you have any tips on on trades? And he's like, yeah, just follow Nancy Pelosi.
Seriously, where is Nancy putting her money? Oh, okay.
Exactly.
I'm gonna put my money there.
Yeah, amazingly, like, what is it? Her husband buys up this huge stake. Wait, is it buy it or sell? Either way, in what is it? Nvidia. She they either buy or sell like all this Nvidia stock, and then Nancy Pelosi goes to Taiwan, where Nvidia is headquartered, and all of a sudden they make bank.
Yeah. It's
yeah. I mean, people. You're gonna tell me that was just a coincidence? That her husband supposedly makes the right trade, and all of a sudden, like, and then she makes a trip, and then all of a sudden they're stinking rich,
Her drunk driving 80-year-old husband.
right? Who's probably loaded.
Well, I mean, it's like, would you want to go home to fuck Nancy Pelosi?
Would there be a paper bag involved?
Probably not.
Okay, then no.
It's like in Galaxy, it's like you have this like really sexy body, and then it's like, oh, the face is gross, so it's like let me just put the paper bag right over
Yeah,
here.
no,
Oh, there.
Right there.
Honestly, Nancy Pelosi looks like that gross like landlord from Kingpin.
Gross landlord.
Do you remember like Woody Harrelson in Kingpin, like where he has to like fuck his
Oh,
landlord?
Kingpin. For some reason, I transposed that and made it King of the Hill.
No,
But
Kingpin.
yes, yeah. The lady.
Oh, God, God. That's who she reminds me of.
Okay, yeah. But yeah, I mean,
he said it's one of those things. You have to just look at the ladies back from like what was it, like 1920 that this came about, this amendment.
something like that. Yeah, 20s or 30s.
Yeah, you look at the women at that time are not dumb. They're actually pretty intelligent, and they realize that there's a hell of a lot of responsibility that's going to be put on them. It didn't end up coming to that, but that is the implication. Like, oh wait a second, you're gonna give us this amendment, this right? We don't want this. We don't want the added responsibility. We like being attached
wives and homemakers, and being responsible for the domestic things. I mean, I'm not sure people understand this, but especially back then, having as many kids as as families are wanted to have, but being in charge of a household is a lot of responsibility.
This is also the time around the time of crackpots like Woodrow Wilson, like one of our worst presidents, who was probably like behind a lot of this too.
For sure.
Because,
but yeah,
that was the beginning. I mean, one of the beginnings of the government trying to get their grubby hands on, like, hey, we, because he was in a lot of ways an early socialist. He probably would have agreed with a lot of like the stuff that guys like Lenin and Mao and all these guys were talking about. It's like, and he felt like that the Constitution, all this shit is like, it's just fuck all that stuff. Like, I'm gonna try to just, I'm smarter than you. I'm smarter than all this. Like, this is all dumb. I'm going to make things better. And I'm sure he was behind a lot of this, because this is a way for the government to get their hands on, on all aspects of life, which is where we're at now.
Well, yeah, and it's like in addition to that, it doubled the tax base. Now no longer are you only taxing families, but you're getting and then like I know this is a little further down the line, but getting women out of the house and into the workforce, that's that's more income for the government, because you tax the woman as well. And then also like the brainwashing was like, oh, like you don't need no man, you can make your own, you make your own way, honey, right? But then the woman goes and works for another man.
It was
be it the direct supervisor, or the regional manager, or the VP or the CEO. You're still working for a man, but you just don't get the protections of marriage. Ha You get the joke? You get the joke?
Yeah. It is a slippery slope that everyone's like, oh, if you even talk about this, like you're just a sexist misogynist. Like, no, I'm not. In fact, like I look at the women back at that time; they didn't want that. So why would I? Uh, I don't want that for them either. Those are very serious complications that, like, as a man, I'm not saying that women are inferior. I need them, but like, it's just like, women serve. They have a different purpose. And they are.
Yeah, and they were lied
Men and
to.
women are that we have to recognize we are different from each other. We serve different purposes. That doesn't mean that like one is better than the other. That is not, everyone's like, oh, the Bible is so, like, it's so horrible to women. It's like, no, it's not. In fact, some of like the greatest heroes of the Bible are fucking women. It's and the idea is that,
Yeah, Ruth,
and the fact that like
Esther. Who's that
Esther,
prostitute? Who's that prostitute lady? That helped Joshua.
Ruth, was it Rachel?
Rahab. Rahab. There you go.
Rahab, thank you.
Yeah, she was the one that hid Joshua and the Hebrew spies. Yeah,
And, and
she was part of Jesus' lineage.
thank you. That's how I was just gonna point that out. Yeah, she's part of like Jesus' lineage, and it's like, there. If you look at Jesus' lineage, there's so many women.
Hmm.
So it's not that, you know oh, Christianity is so misogynistic. It's like, no, it's really not, assholes. Like, it's really
Like,
not.
oh yeah, like it's so terrible that we want to provide protection and resources. So horrible, and it's like and it's commanded in our scriptures.
Yeah, exactly. Um, but whatever. It's just
Yeah,
like,
and it like yeah, and just like and just imagine like the deflationary aspect of if women like weren't in the workforce, because like that's why things have got more expensive because again, you know, uh, companies now, when women started getting into the workforce, like oh now families have two incomes, so that means we could charge more for our goods or services because they have dual
yep,
incomes.
yep. It's just that's why, like, our we look at something like, oh, in 1960 things cost, like, it was like,
Yeah,
this
like five
cost,
cents a 5 cents a pound for hamburger. You know,
yeah. Now it's like, in today's dollars, it's like, $15. It's like, that doesn't mean anything to me. It's like, it seems like all bullshit.
yeah, but again, that came from like,
This is, like I said, it's just one notch in, like, in many, like, we've talked about, like, the idea of, uh that when they went away from senators being appointed to, like, now we vote for senators. It's like, then what's the point? That's also something that we can't put that toothpaste back in the tube. But it's like, it's kind of been a disaster in a lot of ways.
because what is it? The Congress in terms of like the whole system, it's basically become a House of Lords and a House of Commons.
Yeah, it's really broken down the idea of, like, kind of the representation in a lot of ways. Some people are like, oh, that sounds like a great idea. It's like, no, it's actually not.
I know that like what is the purpose of
The
the
Congress is
Congress?
useless.
The Congress
Yeah,
is
it's
yeah,
useless.
it just becomes a super legislative body.
Yeah, we elect Congress people to represent us, and the Congress people that we elect to represent us appoint people that are representatives for the state.
Right? Because the
That
state
was
has
the
to
point.
have a say in the system.
Right, exactly. And that was the point. Now, do people abuse that? Absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I mean, there's always going to be abuse of that. We see that in Mr. Smith Goes to Washington. There was abuse of that. Although, Jimmy Stewart's character, who was appointed, is like, obviously he bucked that, obviously,
Mm-hmm.
but that's the idea that he was appointed. That's he was representing the state as a whole, and he understood his role. And I'm sure there's people that are like, oh well, whatever, I don't have to do anything, blah blah blah. I was appointed by this guy, and because I have this appointment, I'm just gonna do like whatever this guy tells me to do, blah blah blah. I'm sure that happened. No doubt about it. But the fact is, there were probably people that didn't do that, and that was the whole freaking point. And I remember like I was I forget what the podcast was that I was listening to, because they talk about stuff like this, and it's like, yeah, there's just no putting that toothpaste back in the tube. It's just out. It's never gonna go back to like what it was. I
mean, unless you can get enough states together for a convention of states to make another amendment.
I really wish it would. Like there's a lot of these amendments that like came about that like I really wish never came about. Like we're talking about the 19th Amendment, prohibition that should have never been put in there. The idea of senators being elected, that should never be an amendment either. Those are three that I would have eliminated.
Yeah,
I would have.
Yeah, it's like what? Yeah, because like that's why I never understood. I mean, that's why I never understood like when Texas had like their cold snap or whatever, and and everyone was like freezing, like people's like the fixtures in people's houses were freezing, and then people were giving Ted Cruz shit because he went on a vacation. I mean, yeah, optically not great, but it's just like,
what was he supposed to do?
What was he supposed to do? What is Ted Cruz? What is Ted Cruz' role as a senator? Is he like directly responsible for his like the entire constituency of Texas?
Or why don't you like focus on your local community that
or at the very least, like, yeah, your congressman
that it has more why don't you talk to your local political community that is supposed to be like dealing with like the electrical grid, all this stuff. Like what are they? Obviously they've made some bad mistakes and they're more at fault than anything. Like, hey, let's get this stuff fixed. Ted Cruz he is like so many like levels, and I'm not a huge Ted Cruz fan. He makes a lot of blunders, to be honest. He's not a bad dude, but he makes a lot of blunders. But he's so many levels removed from the local level that it's like it's not his fault. Exactly. But he's just kind of like he is the fall guy because he's the famous name. So it's Ted Cruz's fault, and because he's a Republican.
Look at him. He doesn't care. He's off in Mexico like enjoying the the warm sun while everyone in Texas is freezing. It's like what's his responsibilities? What are responsibilities as senator?
And it's like, and give him credit for like, it's like he's actually one of the few senators that actually stays in his fucking district for once. Unlike most of like the California senators and all these like leftist like states who essentially have their residence is Washington D.C., but they just claim like that I'm from this state.
Right. Yeah, although in California it's really kind of lopsided because most of our senators come from like the northern part of the state and also like the Bay Area because San Francisco has like a disproportionate amount of political.
I am all for splitting up California.
Oh yeah. Like Democrats keep saying like, oh yeah, we want to bring in Puerto Rico or what's the other place?
Okay, then split up California.
Or DC,
then.
DC, yeah, like make DC a state. All right, fine. We get to split up California, and
and I'll move to Central California at that point.
Yeah, and that's fine. I'll move out to the IE. I'll move out to San Bernardino.
Yeah. Well, they're actually San Bernardino is like they are. I think they're trying to eradicate or take themselves out so that they can become like their own like kind of like county that's like away from a lot of like the liberal politics.
Well, I've heard. I know. I thought they already were their own county. Because I know that I don't think they're a part of Los Angeles County.
Uh, yeah, there was a county there were a few counties in like Los Angeles that were trying to take themselves out
Right.
to become like their own counties, so that
Yeah,
because
I
they
mean
are
the Valley. There was an attempt for the Valley to be get out of the county as well, but it never really materialized.
no, but I know like I don't remember if it was like San Bernardino or like they were trying to do something because they were so tired of a lot of like the liberal California politics that they were trying to get out. Which I was like, yeah, I don't blame them at all.
Yeah, and so yeah, there's like the reason why I titled this section, the burden of suffrage, because it is a burden. It's a responsibility, and and I'm again, yeah, hashtag not all because because my friend is of course the exception, but she is one of like probably 1,000 more one one in 1,000 who are more like the girl that my friend described as like I just wish someone would tell me who to vote for.
Yeah,
And
and
it's long past times to reinforce this idea that that voting isn't just a right; it is a responsibility.
yeah, you can't just like
And if you don't take that responsibility seriously, I would much rather you didn't vote. And I'm not just talking about women; I'm talking about men as well.
everybody.
Everybody.
If you if you don't know what's going on in your own your own like neighborhood, your own county, your own city, or God forbid the nation, don't vote. Just stop. Like if you don't understand like what the propositions are, if you don't understand like what who's running, if you don't, that's fine. That's totally fine. Uh, and like because there was like, oh, if you don't vote, you're an asshole. Like that's kind of like where it's become. It's like
Yeah,
no,
I refuse that assertion.
no,
It's like you're an asshole if you don't know what's going on and you vote anyways.
yeah,
That's really an
that's what I'm
asshole.
saying. It's okay not to vote if you don't know if you, or the other thing is like if you know certain parts but you don't know other parts, you can vote for the parts that you know, but then like you can like not vote for the other stuff. That's fine. That happens all the time.
Yeah,
That that
or you can just be like me and just vote, particularly for the proposition, just vote no on everything.
Yeah. Well, see, they've even made that more complicated because
Yeah, I know the
it's kind of like
language.
the double negative bullshit.
Yeah, yeah, that's how we got stuck with the gas tax because they worded the proposition in such a way that if you voted no, you're actually voting for the gas tax.
Yeah, that even hell, I was fooled by that one,
Same here.
just like you were fooled by Gascon.
Yeah, and that was fucking crazy because I literally couldn't find anything. And
Yeah,
I'm not one of those first pagers. All right, I dive deep. In the Google searches. I go deep.
I because that was the same problem I had too, and I was like, well, fuck that. If he has like no information on it, I was like, I'm just gonna stick with what like the
Yeah,
bullshit that I
the
know.
incumbent. Yeah, the incumbent.
I was like, that's why I voted for the incumbent. I was like, I don't know anything about this dude. Like it's bad, but it's not that bad.
I know. It's like it's the devil you know. You know. That's I guess also a good rule of thumb.
And like I said, and there were some races that I was like, I don't know anything about this race at all.
Right, like yeah, like the school supervisors or whatever. It's like I don't know
I,
any of like
I didn't know that was a fucking like race.
yeah,
Like I didn't know like, the
at least for like
college
LA like
board.
LA city colleges and stuff. I was like I didn't know that was a thing. I didn't know you were
Yeah,
elected to that position.
that's why I didn't vote for them. I was like, I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, and I mean,
I had
and I did like my due diligence, and I plugged their names in, and I still wasn't able to find anything.
And so it's like, well, I don't feel comfortable voting in that race because, yeah. So like I said, you don't have to vote, like you don't have to mark every. It's not a it's not a standardized test. You don't have to write everything in. Vote for the stuff you know. Oh, I mean, most people know. Okay, who the president is going to be. That's a pretty big thing. I think most people know, okay, governor, that's the head of the state. Mayor, that's the head of the city. We know that. But not everyone knows who the dog catcher is, or the school board, or the college board, or whatever. So vote for the stuff you know. Like, hey, I know this race. I know who I don't like. I've heard this person talk. I don't like what they have to say. But this person, I like what he has to say. Okay, vote for that race. You've done some sort of
Right.
diligence, or you've
Yeah.
heard
Or
something.
you may, yeah, you done some sort of analysis, even if it's basic as like, I don't know, I don't like what he's saying, I like what he's saying.
That, hey, you know what? That's more than what 90% of the public is doing.
Exactly.
And same thing with like the propositions. Like most cases, like I mean, don't just listen to the fucking TV ads, but actually like take a look at it a little bit. Like what is Prop 27 doing? That's the one I keep hearing all
Yeah,
the
that's one.
fucking ads about.
That's the one that's blowing up, saying like they're gonna the was it tax uh what was
Online
like
gaming or
online
whatever.
gaming or something. Yeah.
But if we don't vote for this, like, oh, if we vote for this, it's taking stuff away from like the Indians, and if we do vote for it, it's like I'm like, what? I don't even know what the fuck is going on with Prop 27
Right.
at this point.
Yeah. It's like, yeah. There's 26 and 27. 27 is the one that taxes the no. 27 is the one that doesn't tax, but that still institutes you know online gaming to happen in California because because California has no gambling laws except for on Indian reservations.
Right, right,
Right,
right.
and 26 is the one that that says yes, we can have online gaming, and that money is gonna go to like non-gaming tribes, like the smaller tribes, and then also it'll go towards helping the homeless, provide services and resources and blah blah blah, which I don't
It's
believe.
not.
I don't believe
I
at
don't
all.
think that either. And to be honest, it's like, okay, Indians, get off the fucking
I
reservations,
know, yeah,
move to America, and like stop living in these like hellholes of all the reservations essentially are hellholes.
yeah. Yeah, you want to know what total government control is? Just look at Indian reservations.
They're horrible.
They're horrible. They get. I mean, yeah. If you're, if you're even part native, yeah, you get free college, but that's about
Ooh,
it. That's
you
about
don't have
it.
to pay taxes. Woo, wow, awesome.
Yeah,
But then you
I
go,
only know this, yeah, because like one of my friends, he's part Mexican, part Native American, so he got like one. I met him in community college, but he was able to get his college paid for because his dad was an Indian.
but the problem is that I think you have to live on the reservation to get those benefits.
Maybe perhaps I haven't looked too into it. It's just what this guy claimed to me.
But
Um,
that's why so many of them live on the reservation. They're fucking. It's
yeah, it's a
we
trap. It's a trap because yeah, you have to live on there, but then you basically get a pass to come in, like kind of come into America, because they do treat like the reservations as like sovereign territory.
right.
Um, so like you basically get to come into America, go to school, and then go back to the res.
And that's why like our actual police were like, if they're because there's a lot of just a lot of crimes that happen on those reservations
Hmm.
that it's like you disappear into those reservations, cops can't go there, the FBI can't go there, they can't investigate like what's actually going on there because that's sovereign territory. It's like the Vatican, like just in the middle of our country, can't
Yeah,
go in there.
Yeah, the closest government agency that has somewhat jurisdiction is the Bureau of Indian Affairs.
which is a bullshit
Yeah, it's
organization.
a bull. Yeah, it's another one of those alphabet organizations that
Hell, I would
that's just added that just adds to the bloated bureaucracy.
I would love to work for that organization. I wouldn't have to do jack shit.
There you go. But yes, voting or suffrage is a burden. Um,
It
it's not sex based. If you're a shithead that doesn't do their research, that doesn't I don't know look into matters, then I don't want you voting. And if I could change it right now and make it that only landowners are the ones that vote, I would make that happen.
I make that sacrifice because I don't own any land.
Yeah, neither do I. So yeah, now take me out, and I'm someone who's highly informed on the issues and what things are going on, but I have no skin in the game, as it were. So
We've been very consistent on that. I because that's something that's like, yeah, okay, that's fine. Like, well, that means you can't vote. It's like, great.
cool. I'm completely cool with it. Just as if you know just like that colloquialism. If you don't put in for the pizza, you don't have a say in the toppings.
Exactly.
All right. I think I said everything I wanted to say about that. Let's get into our movie review and we'll wrap it up. Let me hit everyone with the synopsis and we'll get going.
No, right.
Reminder. What was it?
No. Keep going.
Okay. Reminder that tonight's movie review is Midsommar, starring Florence Pugh and some other people, but she's the big name that came out of this movie. Yeah, let me hit you all with the synopsis and we'll get going. A couple travels to Sweden to visit their friend's rural hometown for its fabled Midsummer Festival. But what begins as an idyllic retreat quickly devolves into an increasingly violent and bizarre competition at the hands of a pagan cult. Midsummer came out in 2019, directed by Ari Aster. 9 million budget US with with a really good return. 50 47 $48 million. Not bad.
What do you think about this movie, Andy? Like, 'cause, this is your first viewing of it, correct?
Yes, this is my first
Uh,
viewing.
this was because for me, this is I've talked about how I'm not. I kind of got away from like the horror genre for a while. Uh, Probably like right around like the late '90s, early 2000s, because there wasn't like a whole lot of great stuff. I mean, there was some good stuff, but not a lot. Um, but within like the last 10 to 15 years, there's really been some good stuff that's come out. This being one of the movies. And I would when I first watched this was I because it was actually to bring it back to our friends from A Cut Above, this was they are the ones that actually got me to pull the trigger to watch this movie. And I really, really enjoyed it a lot. And the fact that it takes place essentially in the day, the entire movie. That's also kind of like very unique. And I, I was actually like really interested in this movie. I was very excited by it. I was like, this is what horror movies should be.
Mm, let's see. Yeah, I didn't
What
like this movie very much.
you didn't like this movie?
I didn't like this movie
Wow,
very much.
really?
Yeah, I couldn't get into it. It's like the little uh, interpersonal like drama stuff was getting annoying. Like out like Florence Pugh's character. Florence Pugh's character was like so damn annoying to me, and then like kind of like the over the top like douchiness of like some of like the side like the friend that pees on the tree like his is like
Mark.
his yeah his is like he's like he's almost a caricature, right? And yeah, like I didn't yes I couldn't like
I,
I couldn't get past like the shittiness of the characters, and so like, I didn't really care like when they died.
that is kind of true. So okay, so obviously you did not like this movie.
I didn't like this
What
movie.
what were the like? Explain the aspects of the movie that you didn't like.
Well, I mean, again, like
I'm super curious, to be honest.
yeah. Well, again, I think like the interpersonal thing was like kind of getting in the way. I was like getting so annoyed with Florence Pugh's character. Um, the boyfriend the boyfriend was like really like annoying me too. Just like how like
Yeah, it's pretty awful.
yeah the douchiness and like it's like because like he wants to break up with this girl, but then understandably you know a tragedy strikes her and her family, and so like he can't be that guy, and so I give him props for that, but otherwise he's just a horrible person, and just like complete douche, like like because one of their friends, the black friend,
He's
um,
also an asshole too.
he's an
I don't
asshole
like him.
too, but but he was the one that was going there for like to do this like thesis thing, and then midway through their trip to this village, he's like, oh, I'm gonna do the same thing. It's like
Oh
that's so fucking messed up.
yeah, that's really fucked up. He's
Right?
a
And like
bad friend.
yeah, and he's a bad friend. And the justification's like, oh, well, you're doing your thesis on midsummer festivals in general. I want to do specifically this village. It's like that's a fucking weak cop out answer.
And it's like I think Josh was right. Josh was the the black guy in the movie.
Mm.
He was right for calling him out. It's like you're being a real asshole. To be honest, that was kind of the point of that. The other thing too that about Christian, who was the boyfriend, he also like I was like, oh well, I told Danny, my girlfriend, who's having a hard time, that she can come to Sweden with us. It's okay. And it's like, but she's not gonna come. But I told her she could, and then obviously she comes in. It's like, so you guys are coming? Yeah, yeah. I guess I'm gonna go to Sweden with you guys. Like, great. It's like, so this guy's trip that Christian ruined because he couldn't like, because he's an asshole. He's a
Yeah,
bad,
he's an
he's a
asshole.
bad friend, and he's a bad boyfriend too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so like there's no yeah. I think a part of a horror movie is some relatability to the character or some sympathy for the character. But like I couldn't find myself sympathizing or relating to any of the characters because like of how like shitty they were.
I would have rather have seen. I think like you probably would have rather seen a movie that was more focused on like Simon and Connie, who seem to be like more likable characters.
Oh yeah,
The
absolutely.
the British people that
Yeah. That the
Ingmar,
brother, the brother brought as ritual sacrifice.
yeah, you would have
as
rather
you'll find out. Yeah, I would have rather watched the story from their
this.
perspective.
I am wow. This I think that we're gonna be so far off on this
Okay.
movie, like because I'm not disagreeing with you in any way because I think you have a lot of what you're saying is very true. Because yeah, a lot of the characters you did not like. The character that I didn't that I did like Danny. I thought she was a good character. She's going through a lot.
Hmm.
Um, she has a lot of like family issues, and obviously that the whole tragedy of like her family, her sister who is completely out of her fucking mind, who ends up
Right.
killing her.
She had bipolar, right?
That's what she said, but like I mean, there's got to be more to it because she ended up killing her parents and herself in like a
Right.
really fucked up way. It's just like, oh, and obviously we don't see like Danny seeing it, but like she probably went to go see like what happened. It's like it's horrible.
Mm-hmm.
And because the vision of what happened to her sister and her parents keeps coming through the movie, because we do see we do see her parents and her sister throughout the movie, like through her hallucinations and like her craziness. um so I did like Danny's character a lot. I thought Florence Pugh was really good in the movie, and I don't know, there's something about a cult movie that, like, because I find cults very like fucking freaky. And I think like the last movie that we kind of did like this was we did Eyes Wide Shut, we did Fight Club, with like these crazy cults, right? And this is kind of, I don't know. So there's something about them. I'm like, it's so weird that there's so many people that can just like buy into this. And this particular in Midsommar, this particular Swedish cult, which has all these like Nordic traditions. They've been doing this for generation after generation after generation. That everyone is just like bought in. Like there's no questioning this society. And so obviously the ones that do question it are the people who are on the outside. It's like, wow, this is such a crazy, weird culture. We just have to accept their culture. It's and the people who are like, and it's the people who have like the anthropologists, like Josh and Christian. They're like, oh, we just have to like, it's a different culture. We just have to accept it, which is what we hear on the left. Most of the time, we just have to accept it. We don't understand their culture. It's okay. It's just foreign to us. We just have to get used to it. But then you
Yeah,
have
fuck
like
that shit.
but then you have people like Danny and Simon and Connie, like the guys from Europe, and like Mark is like, what the fuck is all this shit? Like it's weird.
Mm-hmm.
Um and the other thing, and so there's that aspect to the movie. So I do like that part of it, and I do agree. Most of the characters are fucking douchebags.
Right.
I don't like
But I also wish that they would have focused more on like the cult as well. I mean, to an extent that they do, but and kind of like the point of a cult is like you're not that transparent, you know, initially. But
well,
the idea of that inbred kid was very interesting to me, and I wish they expanded more on that.
well, see, so I don't know if you saw the trailer of this. A lot of people expected that particular character, the inbred
Hmm.
character that was the Oracle.
Right.
They expected the movie to be more of that character, which did not happen
Right. Well,
because
like I didn't need it the entire movie to be about him, but if they had included him more, I think I would have maybe appreciated the movie
did
more.
did you enjoy the aspect of like how a lot of the film, like what was going to happen in the film, was telegraphed throughout the film?
Oh yeah,
Did
they're like yeah, like the what is it? Like the girl trying to seduce Christian with like the pube and the pube pie and
That's fucking
whatever.
gross.
That was fucking gross.
But the well, I don't know if you noticed, like literally throughout the entire film, there's all these like pictures and symbols, even before they go into Sweden. Because Danny, in her room, she has the picture of the bear with like the flower princess kind of like touching the nose of the bear,
Mm.
which is a paying. It's pointing forward to the end of the film, like where she chooses Christian to become like the bear sacrifice, and she is the flower princess, the
Right.
May Queen.
Right.
So there's that aspect of it. There's all these other like pictures throughout the film, like before they go to Sweden, and then throughout like the time of them in the cult.
Right.
It,
Like in the place that
even
they're
in the
staying,
prologue,
the
yeah,
place that they're staying, they they it basically tells you the end of the movie where it has like the temple room and like the bear, like the fool, and yada yada
right.
yada.
Well, hell, even like before the film even starts, like the prologue, you have like the essentially the the film telling what's going to happen in the film. You have like the Pele, who's the Swedish foreign exchange student, who
Mm-hmm.
is the kind of like the Renfield that is dragging them into this cult,
Mm-hmm.
to their doom.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so like I said, that I think that aspect is cool. I to me, I love the cinematography of the film. I do like the idea of the film. I think, like I said, I like a good cult film, like where like you have this like crazy cult that's doing some shit. I don't know if you heard, but I was talking about like Eyes Wide Shut,
Right.
and
Right. Right.
we talked about Fight Club. Same thing.
Right.
They're these like crazy cults.
But I think for me, um, like those movies, like there's an entry point. Like Tom Cruise, you're essentially Tom Cruise. Like you see everything from his perspective. Or in Fight Club, you're Edward Norton. You only see the cult through Edward Norton's perspective. And then but then you also like establish that him as the relatable character, or Tom Cruise's
Right.
character as a relatable character. But for some reason, like none of these characters I found relatable, or I could sympathize with. I mean, with the exception of Danny, and in that I would say that I understand like her predicament of like she comes from a family with all these problems. Her sister's nuts, and which has caused her to have like great self doubt in herself. Um, but like, but just like kind of watching her interactions with the boyfriend Christian, like even I felt like exasperated, and like and I'm just like and I'm just watching this movie, but it's like I understand, like I kind of feel in the weird way. I guess I do kind of feel, but like I do feel for Christian and like his exasperation of like dealing with Danny and like all of her shit. Um, but he's also an asshole, and you know, and so
Yeah.
but
Right.
so that it makes me like dislike him. So yeah, it was really hard. I guess for me, it was really hard to like hook into this movie because there's no one for me to relate to
You
or kind of
couldn't,
sympathize with.
couldn't attach yourself to any character in the film.
No, yeah, not I wasn't able to attach to any character, which I think that's why I wasn't able to enjoy this movie.
Did you at least like when they died?
Uh,
Like the characters you didn't like, did you at least like when they
oh,
died? Though most of the
I,
kills on in the film were off screen.
right. The Mark, is that the guy that
Yeah,
pees on the tree? Mark. Yeah, Mark's kills off screen. Simon and
Josh. Well, like Josh kind of is
well,
off
Josh,
screen.
yeah, he gets his head smacked in, but yeah, but
Which,
Connie and Simon, their kills are mostly off screen.
yeah, apparently Josh's kill what the so from what I've looked online, because a lot of people talk about this film,
Hmm.
is apparently Josh's kill was done by Pele, the guy that brought him.
The friend.
Yeah, because they although it like you have to like they're talking about like if you freeze frame it at a certain moment, like you can see Pele with the hammer. He's the one that like he's in the corner with like the giant mallet that killed like the old dude.
Yeah.
Uh and Yeah, I wasn't able to do that, but like I was like, oh, it makes sense to me because Paley's kind of a dick too. Like, fuck that guy.
Right, yeah, because he's the one kind of like constantly like feeding or subverting Danny's and Christian's
Yeah,
relationship.
him and Ingmar are like the Renfields. They're bringing in these like new blood sacrifices
Hmm.
for their like weird fucked up festival.
Right.
And I was thinking about like would you I was hoping to have like more of a discussion about this because I really thought you were gonna like this movie, but apparently you didn't.
Yeah. Okay. Well.
But
Okay. Then tell me why you enjoy this movie so much.
so like I said, I like a good cult film. I mean, just
Okay.
because like I found what I found interesting about it was um I like the this weird society that these people had created, and I wondered too, like, was it was the plan to always have killed these kids, like that, like the reason, because the all these guys go out on pilgrimage, like in their whatever their summer phase, like from 18 to 36,
Hmm.
they go out on this pilgrimage, and this festival happens every, they say 90 years, but like I feel like
Well.
that's not true either.
Well, no, because Pele shows a picture of last year's May Queen.
Well, that's what I'm saying. Like, so even though they say 90 years, I don't think that that's true either because
Right.
they have all these May Queens. I think this happens all the time.
Yeah.
I think this happens every year or
Yeah. Yeah.
almost
Yeah.
every.
Yeah. Or
And
let's say every 4 years, because like at no wait this they're all like graduate students, right?
right, yeah, because so all of our main characters that we see, like Pele, Josh, like they're all like probably like 22, 23, maybe.
Yeah. Okay.
Um, but no, like my thought was like, was the idea that like was Pele and Ingmar's like their whole thing, like the pilgrimage, was that to go find new sacrifices for their like weird their weird cult to sacrifice,
Yeah. I mean, we
or
still
was
talk about it, but I'm gonna say yes.
you okay, so you think that that's the case.
Hmm.
I'm not sure. That my thing is like I'm not sure because we're not really sure if they like was it this particular festival is like where they like they decided to kill all these people, or was this something that like happens like maybe like every few years, like maybe like because there's a lot of the number 9 is seems to be super significant for this, like all like the seasons, it's all like multiples of 9, um like from like 0 to 18, 18 to 36, 36 to 54, 54 to 72, and then death. So those are all multiples of 9. Supposedly it's just like the every 90 years they do this like festival, although I don't think that that's true
Right.
based off of this movie. um so like 9 is an important number, so I don't think this happens every year, but there's maybe some sort of multiple of 9. Maybe every 3 years, maybe every 6 years this
Right.
happens.
Right. Which would
And
then line up because most postgraduate like grad student stuff like it usually only takes 3 years.
yeah, because I don't know, because I don't believe any of these people because they're all
No, of course,
liars.
exactly, exactly. They're all liars, so you can't take their what they say at
Yeah.
face value.
So I don't believe what they say.
Hmm.
And the other thing too, what I don't understand is uh what the hell, like, so they planned on killing a lot of these people, but why? Was it just because Pele liked Danny? Is that she? There's the reason that she was saved, and she was the quote unquote. They made her the May Queen.
Hmm.
Did she actually win that competition, or was she
Right.
like
Yeah.
designated?
Yeah. Or did she win the competition?
And like that's the only reason why, like, one, she was saved and became a part of the community because Pele wanted her.
Well,
because
I think maybe he did want her, but also I think he knew that she would be most susceptible because of like the trauma in her life. You know, because like
yeah,
that whole scene where she's like freaking out and screaming, that's a scream session. That's cult shit. That you know,
well, and
that's
that's it.
conditioning.
Yeah, supposedly, like the idea is like, oh, all these members of this group, like they, oh, when one person feels pain, we feel it. When one person feels sad, we feel it. When one person feels happy, we all feel it. It's like,
Right,
no,
just that's also classic scream training. You know, it's a classic
but they,
cult, like kind of like Jim Jones kind of stuff, where like you kind of like shout, try to release yourself. But that's classic cult conditioning.
that's like what they do in like North Korea.
Yeah, exactly. It's classic cult conditioning where like you do scream training and it's like you scream until you get hoarse essentially. But
Yeah.
that's what yeah. But
The
yeah, I do think it was like that it was intentional that he like Pele picked these people for like specifically to be sacrificed.
Why do you think Pele picked them?
Because maybe he was like he was fit like he was trying to fit like the certain archetypes required for the sacrifice. So like Mark was the fool, uh, Josh. What was like at the end? Well, how was he dressed again?
So I don't know if like Josh was anything in like particular, but like
Mm-hmm.
Josh was like because he has his whole like study was based off of like kind of like those Nordic traditions. Like he was an anthropology student. Like him and Christian were both probably in the same class.
Right. Yeah, both have the same field of study.
Yeah, so I think, and I assume that they probably, maybe if they weren't in the same class, like, or maybe they did have like a class together, and
Mm-hmm.
that's like where they met like Pele. It's like, oh, you're from like this country. Do you have any idea about these traditions? So that's probably how they met Pele,
Mm-hmm.
and that's like, and not knowing that he was a part of this cult, and so Pele is like, oh well, if you want to know more, in a during the summer, we're going to be doing this festival that it's like, why don't you come with me? And he probably fooled like Christian and Josh into that, and obviously like Mark is a friend of them, and so it's like it was like kind of like he kind of bagged them, and I'm sure that Danny had been like a kind of a part of their group, even though like nobody in that group really liked Danny at all.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but he probably met Danny. He's like, wow, she looks very. Uh, I'm sure he was attracted to her,
Mm-hmm.
and that he knew some of like the problems that she was going through, and he's like, there's gonna come a chance like, and maybe it just kind of worked out that it's like, oh, she's going through these problems similar to like what I went through, and so like once he heard that her parents had died along with her sister, it's like he was so he was like he knew that like something was going to happen for her to end up coming on that trip.
Mm-hmm. Right. Okay. Yeah, I just kind of queued up the movie right now, but in the opening scene, there's like that painting
That
thing.
happened.
Yeah, the
Yeah.
tapestry thing, which depicts like what's gonna happen in the movie essentially.
Well,
But
that's what I'm saying. Like the whole movie is telegraphed before
yeah.
you.
But okay, but yeah, Mark is wearing the fool's hat, so yeah, he's the fool.
Yep.
But Josh, he's carrying a stack of books, so I guess he would be the scholar.
Yep. That's, oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, that's right. He is carrying the books in that tapestry. I forgot about that. But yeah, it's just like I said, I just like this movie. I don't know why. I found it very fascinating. Yeah, are some of the characters like I hate Josh. I don't like Christian. I don't like Mark. Uh, but I did like Danny. I and I thought the cult was interesting. And I think that's what drew me to it. And I like the way this movie is filmed. And there are parts that it feels like because we probably both watched the theatrical cut, not the director's cut, because there's an extra 30 minutes to this film that supposedly like pay like a little bit more because we never see or we don't really know what happens to Simon or Connie. Apparently, the
Oh,
director's cut.
yeah, I did
They
watch the director's cut.
Oh, you watched the director's cut.
I watched the director's cut.
Okay. So supposedly in the director's cut, there's a scene at the lake.
Yes, yes.
What happened? Do you think can you explain like some of like the stuff that happened in the director's cut that I missed? Because I feel like I missed a lot based off of
Well,
that.
okay. Well, I mean, I don't know exactly how pertinent it is, but and I don't know exactly like what is in the director's cut and what's not.
So supposedly there was a kid that was gonna sacrifice himself in the lake
Yeah,
and
yeah,
like
yeah.
heaven.
There was. Yeah, because this is after they see like the two old guys
Kill himself.
kill themselves, and then there's like this. There's a ceremony at the lake, and yeah, and at first, they it's like to the Mother Earth goddess or whatever, so they sacrifice a tree, and then they they it's like this whole show, and then like this one of the one of the players in the skit is like, oh, I still hear rumbling, I think she's still hungry, and then this kid comes out and he's like wearing like these decorative things like branches and things like that, and he already has like a chain like on his leg, and it's like, I will sacrifice myself, and they attach a big rock to him, and they're like swinging him, like preparing to like throw him into the lake, and because of what they saw before, and now it's like a kid, they're like, Connie and Simon are freaking out, like, what's going on, and then someone like an older woman like stops them before they gets thrown in, saying, "Oh, he has shown his bravery." It's like he's like he doesn't need to sacrifice himself, and but that ends up being kind of like a psych out for the benefit of Simon and Connie,
Yeah,
because
because
they do throw him in.
yeah, because Connie gets thrown in the lake. Because that's who we see like in the wheelbarrow with all like the decorations from that lake sacrifice. That's Connie.
Wait, hold on. So I thought it was the kid.
No, no,
I
no.
thought it was like the kid. They they went back and threw him in or something. Hold on.
No. Because they're like the idea of the sacrifice was there's supposed to be there was like 4 new bloods and 4 old bloods, like of like so there's 4, like, and there was two live sacrifices, like Ingmar and one other,
Oh, okay.
and then
You're
there
right.
was 2 people that already sacrificed themselves that were being burnt in that offering,
Right.
and then there was the 4 new bloods, so Josh, Mark, Connie,
Right. And then
and
Billy's brother,
Simon.
quote unquote, he's the one that allegedly he the
And then the
brother is the one that sacrifices himself.
Yeah, and the Maid Queen is the one that chooses between like an old blood or a new blood for the 9th sacrifice.
Mm.
In the director's cut, do they deal with how like Simon dies? Like obviously we know he gets blood eagled, but did they deal any more with his character?
What was that? What was that last bit?
No, I was asking like in the director's cut, do they deal with like Simon's death, like how he how he gets like captured and blood eagled?
No, yeah, we see him like kind of splayed out with like the flowers on his eyes, and I think he's still alive. He's like, because like
He's
because the
yeah,
lungs are outside the body and like they're contracting and stuff. But no mention in how like he gets to that position.
it,
But
the other
oh
thing
yeah,
that
but
I
the
was
thing I got confused with is there. I think there was the kid, but he's the one with like the branches for arms.
yeah, like that's that because some of like the sacrifices are like who the fuck was that? Like was it something that's like that happened before that they like before like any of these characters came in and they had sacrificed themselves like hey we'll be a part of this just kill us and we'll be a part of this thing because at first I thought it was like the old couple that ends up like throwing themselves off the mountain, but obviously that's not true because their bodies were burned to ash
Mm-hmm.
and thrown on that dead tree, so obviously it's not them, it was some
Right.
other characters that were killed earlier on.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that like I also wondered, maybe the director's cut talks about this, was when Christian was put into the bear, did they cut his legs?
Well, yeah, there is the scene where they like they gut the bear.
Yeah, that's in the theatrical cut. They do show that part.
They gut the bear, and then it does a cut to Christian being in the bear skin,
Oh, so
but
okay, so then I'm
no
wondering.
mention as to whether or not they like they Darth Maul him.
Yeah, then I'm wondering where the fuck is like because apparently there's an extra 30 minutes in like in the director's cut. I know the lake scene is like 7 minutes, but like where the hell is the other like 20 minutes? Like I'm really wondering like where they added in certain parts.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, just yeah. I'm looking at. They might have because it doesn't. The way the bear's legs look, it doesn't look like human legs are in it.
Because I know in the theatrical cut, because what they do is when Christian is laid out before they stuff him in the bear, they
Mm-hmm.
pull up the pant legs from like the costume that he's wearing.
Mm-hmm.
That's what makes me think like they cut off his legs, didn't they? That's what I was thinking. Is like okay, because otherwise he's not gonna fit in that fucking bear.
Yeah, he's wearing that tunic, and
Yeah,
yeah, they do
but
roll.
they
Yeah, it's like, and the tunic is like full length. And yeah, they
but they
do.
knees.
Right, it would have to be at the knees where they amputate them, just and so that they would fit perfectly inside the bear's legs, but not like like make it look non-bear.
Yeah, it's I don't know. It's like there like for me there's like a lot of questions, but like the reason why I like the film, there's like a lot of like cool symbolism. I love like the tapestries and like the them telegraphing the movie. But and it's I've seen this movie probably about like 5 or 6 times, and I'm getting something new out of it every time. Like in one instant, like one thing that I saw this time that I didn't see in the previous times was during like the maypole dance that Danny's in, where she, the competition for the May Queen.
Mm-hmm.
Just before she wins it, like she kind of like because she's on that weird like mushroom tea or whatever the fuck that they're drinking.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, God, these guys are on drugs all the fucking time.
Yeah.
Uh, but like just before she wins it, she kind of like you start that like she is enveloped by like whatever she drank, and like the screen starts to fade out a little bit, like where it's like oh like this like oh the sun's just getting too bright, but you see like her like almost seeing herself as like with the May Queen crown, and it's like it's like she's almost like having a vision of like herself becoming the May Queen, and then it happens. And so I was like, that's interesting. I never noticed that before. So I thought that was kind of, like I said, I thought that was interesting. The other scene that I thought was like really crazy and interesting and like horrible at the same time was that damn like scene with Christian being lured into having sex with that with what was her name, Maya?
Something like that.
Yeah, it's like that whole scene was fucking horrifying. It is not arousing at all. It is gross.
No.
The other thing that so apparently the actor that played Christian, he was talking about how he wanted to do a scene because he was probably because he's more like left leaning and stuff, kind of like what we were talking about earlier with the Disney stuff. He's like, man, there's so many of these horror films with like girls running like naked and afraid. It's like I kind of want to have a scene like that. It's like where the guy is naked and afraid, which it works for this film. I thought it was a great scene. With his like cock hanging out, like waving around, and like he realized he has nowhere to run.
Right.
But I was like, it's like that whole scene with like him being lured to like have sex with this girl. I don't, do you buy that? Like, do you think that like he like obviously like he was on like a lot of he was kind of force fed a lot of these like drugs, either through like peer pressure or through like force. But do you think that's what caused him to have sex with this girl, or was like he just kind of like was already kind of thinking about it, and it was just kind of like it just kind of those things helped kind of push him towards that?
Well, yeah, because he obviously had like some sort of attraction to that girl, and then they just before the ceremony, like they gave they gave him something, and like they said like, oh, this will help lower your inhibitions.
It just, yeah, that because I don't buy the fact that like I'm just like, oh, they forced me to have sex with this, like, yeah. Now in reality the girl's I think like 22, so but obviously she's portrayed as like some like 13 or 14-year-old girl, and he's like like almost
Yeah, or
like
at the
8.
very least 15, because like she would have been, yeah, or at the very most she was 15.
Yeah, she had her pants license. She could have sex according to
Yeah,
that
yeah.
community. Yeah, it was fucking horrifying. I hate that scene. Like it's how much I hate like a sex scene that doesn't need to happen in a film. This to me, I think it was necessary. Like it did add to the story. I wasn't aroused by it. I thought it was horrifying, but it was like I felt it was necessary to the movie. But
Right.
I was like, I don't buy for a second that like Christian was like, oh, the drugs made me do it. They forced their drugs are so powerful, it forced me to do it. It's like, dude, you wanted to do that like from the fucking get go when she kicked you during the skin the fool game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, can anyone like join this game? It's like, yeah, just be like an American, just shove yourself in. It's like that's exactly what he did, like when he like fucked her.
Yeah.
And that this is the thing, like all cults, they either deal with like sex, money, or both. Obviously, money wasn't involved, so it's a weird Nordic sex cult.
Well, yeah, because it's a fertility thing. Because like they made sacrifices for to ensure like their crop next year grows. That's what it was.
Do you think that Danny become like? Do you think that she becomes like a long standing member of this community, or do you think that she gets killed later on? Because you
I
never.
think yeah, I think this was her initiation. Because Pele for sure like was kind of jonesing for
Yeah.
her. Um, and I'm sure like he was like sending reports back. It's like, hey, I think because like what like one of the big things is, small communities is inbreeding, and like, they're always looking for new people. Um, so they have to bring in new people. And it is what it is. But women are more valued than men, so that's why Christian was sacrificed, because he's just a dude. He dumps his load, and that's it.
That's
But
it. Yeah.
yeah, but Danny, but women in general, uh, you know, they're the ones to bear the children. So
Right.
she could have like 13 more kids with Pele, or or if like some sharing goes around, she could have a generation unto herself.
Because my question is like, because we see all the pictures of like the May Queens,
Hmm.
but we never see any of them.
That's also true. Yeah, it's like, oh, like like an older woman coming in saying, oh, I was May Queen in 1970 something or other.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. It just seems like a little odd to me. Like, what happened to like the rest of the May Queens? And maybe it's kind of like a similar story, like with like Christian. Although Christian, like, dies right away. They use up uh Danny's character, and then like after a time, it's like, well, you're dead.
Maybe
Because
that.
and then the other thing I wonder, are all the May Queens outsiders? Like, because maybe like that, and so they are used for like, to bring in like, quote unquote new blood, and so they give birth to like all these kids, and then they kill them off. And
Maybe,
it's
yeah, because then, because right, because if the older women in the village were former May Queens, then even if they just learned the language, they would still probably be retaining somewhat of their native language, like an accent.
right, right.
But it seems like all of the women in the village were like born there.
That's where I was like, I wonder if they are just using her as like, a baby machine,
Hmm.
and eventually, like, once she gets to a point, it's like, okay, well, we've had enough of that. She's an outsider, unlike the rest of them, and
True.
so it's like, I think all, because it seems like this ceremony doesn't all this I don't know how long this community has been like in practice, but it seems like it's every few years that this ceremony happens, and I wonder if all the May Queens were outsiders,
Right.
and if like this, like what happens in this movie has happened several times over. Oh, we need that, we have like, so we sacrifice some of like the old blood, but we sacrifice the new, and like we bring, so but we're always like constantly like regenerating like this new blood.
Yeah.
Because because here's the thing though, because obviously, and here's Paley talks about his parents dying in the fire, and it was because so clearly that this ceremony doesn't happen every 90 years. His parents sacrificed themselves in that weird ritual.
Hmm.
His parents were like Ingmar and that other guy. They put themselves in that fire and killed themselves.
Right. I see 30 pictures of the May Queens, or the former May Queens.
So let's say it's like every
Yeah,
three
and I
years.
mean, and it starts with black and white photos.
Right. I mean, clearly.
Right.
So let's say like at best it's probably every 3 years.
Mm-hmm.
So then you put what, 30 times three, what, that's
That's 90.
90. And let's see, this movie takes place in it's modern day, so it takes place in 2019. Go back 90 years, that's like what, 19, 1929.
1929. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense to me. I think that's how long this community has been going on. Oh, every 90 years we have this ceremony. It's like bullshit because you'd have two pictures, maybe three.
Right. Like you could have an entire wall of these May Queens.
You'd maybe have like paintings, but you wouldn't have all these pictures.
Mm-hmm. Right.
But if you go
Photographs.
back to like the 20s, yeah, you'd have pictures.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's honestly, I think they're all bullshitting. I think this happens every like 3 years. That makes more sense to me.
Right. And yeah, like and that makes sense too because I think depending on the crop, I think, but every 3 years you're supposed to rotate or lay fallow a field.
Yeah,
So
it's nuts. This movie, I think, I like I said, you didn't like the movie. I like the movie. I'm actually really, I think we're gonna be pretty far apart on this one.
yeah, I mean, when you talk, when you know, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do appreciate all the symbolism and the occult stuff or whatever, but just yeah, I just wasn't able to latch on
You
to
just
any
think
character, and so
you didn't like the characters at all.
I don't like the
And,
characters at all.
that's I can't really think of any other questions that I had. This conversation about Midsummer did not go exactly as I thought it would, but I did enjoy it.
All right. I mean, as long as you enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it.
All right. Yeah, I'm not saying like I hate it. I just didn't like it. Who
Um,
knows? Maybe maybe somewhere down the line I'll watch it again, and maybe with fresh eyes. Maybe I'll see something that I didn't see before. But we'll see.
well, why don't we give our ratings? Andy, why don't you go first?
Yeah. This is a 2 for me.
Wow. Oh yeah, we're way off.
This
We're
is a 2
so
for me.
yeah, you kind of explained, like you said, you didn't like any of the characters, you didn't connect with anything.
Mm.
Uh, most of the points are probably going to go to like the fact that like you thought the cinematography was good and like the
Yeah, pretty much.
symbolism.
Yeah,
Was
pretty much all the technical things.
good. Yeah, I gotta give this movie. I'm giving this movie a 4.5. I really like this movie a lot. Yes, are a lot of the characters horrible? Yeah, Christian was a terrible boyfriend and a terrible friend, to be honest. He's such a it's like, oh, I'm just oh shucks, like I wasn't trying to do anything. It's like, and Josh called him out. He's an asshole.
Mm.
Um, Josh is a dick too. I didn't like him, and I'm glad that they made like the black character like super like unlikable.
Right. Yeah.
That's refreshing. I
Yeah.
like that part of it.
Yeah.
It's
And
like,
he and they at least they didn't make him the first one to die.
hey, that's right. He was actually one of the last to die.
Exactly.
In fact, like outside of like Christian, yeah, he was the second to last person to die.
Yeah. Or I mean, like within at least that group, because you could say that they killed off the other minority characters in Connie and Simon.
True. You're right. Well, okay, yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Um, I thought Mark was, although I do like that actor. I don't know if you watched the Maze Runner series. He's in that.
No. But I did enjoy him in We're the Robinsons or
Oh, we're the Millers.
We're the Millers. There you go. We're the Millers.
He's an English actor, by the way.
Yeah, I know. It
Which
trips
is
me out every
insane.
single time.
I'm like, wait, well,
Yeah,
holy
because
shit.
I mean I wasn't able to finish the movie, but I do remember him in the Lion Witch and the Wardrobe series, the Don Treader movie.
Oh shit,
Yeah,
that's right.
he's Eustace. He's Eustace.
Oh my god, that's right. I totally forgot about that. This
Hmm.
guy's been in a lot of shit. But like
Yeah,
that scene in We're the Millers where he starts singing that I forget what the band
yeah, the
the
TLC song.
Thank you. Yeah, TLC. It's like
Yeah,
I was
he
like,
starts
oh
doing the left eye rap part. I was like, oh my
yeah.
god, I love it.
That's a great movie.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought he's just like this, like, man, what a fucking prick, and he is in this movie. He's like, all he could think about was just getting some, and it's like he was just this. What you, I think he was thrown in there to be like that. Oh, he's just that dumb American like dumbass that like, oh, just doesn't give a shit about culture, all this. He's just there to do drugs and fuck women, and that it just this ignoramus. That's what he
Yeah,
was thrown in there for.
for
Uh,
sure.
so yeah, unlikable. I didn't like his character. Nobody. In fact, everyone that I talked to or listened to hate his character, and deservedly so. He's stupid. He is the fool.
He's the fool.
Um, but yeah, the cinematography was awesome. I like Danny. I thought she was a cool character. I just like this weird cult that is just in the middle of nowhere. I like the fact that it takes place essentially entirely during the day. Um, Kind of like this like weird insomnia cult, that's going on.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah. Sounds
but
pretty
yeah,
cool.
I really like this movie. I've watched it 6 times. I'm probably gonna watch it again at some point. I really like the film.
All right. There you have it. That's our review of Midsommar. I give it a 2. Rob gives it a 4.5. Uh, you know,
I think
I don't.
it's been our widest margin yet.
Yeah, our widest margin yet. Yeah. I don't know if I can recommend it, but I know Rob recommends it.
Dude, it's good. It's really good.
So yeah. So if you're curious, go ahead and watch it. Um,
God, I'll
and
kill myself if you don't like our next movie,
oh, okay. We'll,
Nosferatu.
we'll see. We'll see. Um, but yeah, watch it. And come back and let me know. If I'm the asshole or if Rob's the asshole on this one.
All right.
But yeah, but I will admit that it is technically a very well shot film. A lot of the shots were really well done. Um, and again, like yeah, all the symbolism and using the runes and things like that was very intriguing. I'll admit that.
I love the telegraphing the entire time because in a lot of movies like, oh well, I already know what the movie's gonna do, but in this one it really works.
Right. Yeah, because you don't expect the movie to just be like, okay, this is what's gonna happen, and then like that's what happens. You know,
Yeah.
sometimes they do a really bad telegraphing job, and it's just like, oh, just like
Here we go.
here we go. But it's like, but this one, like it shows you, but then it comes, and you're like, oh my gosh,
They actually did that. Holy shit.
yeah. So yeah, it's in that way, it's very surprising and very well done. All right, folks, that's our stream for tonight. I hope you had a good time. I know Rob had a good time.
I always have a good time, man. Tuesday's my favorite day of the week.
All right, just a little let you know, no stream next week. I'll be out of town on another fishing trip. So that means Rob's gonna be at home talking to a blank screen.
Yeah. We're gonna come back with a vengeance to talk about Nosferatu.
Actually, okay, we'll talk about it after the stream. But anyways, yes, the next movie we'll be reviewing is Nosferatu. So something to look forward to. All right, folks, that's the show for tonight. I hope you check out the library of other content that we have. Circular Jerk's main podcast, nocturnal episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show Up by Up Down. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter and Letterboxd at PodcastCOJ, and Instagram at Circular Jerks Podcast. And with all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week, or come back in 2 weeks, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good night.